Good afternoon, everybody. We're here to do the people's business. If you can take your seats and cease conversations. Looks like we have a packed house once again. We're going to ask our marshal to hand out face coverings, mask. If you don't have one, we want to make one available to you. If you do have one, I'm going to respectfully ask you if you'll place it on. We're equally concerned not only about your health and welfare, but our own as well. So we really appreciate you working with us as it relates to this. Again, if you do not have a mask, just raise your hand. We have several that are available. Our marshals are here to support that. In addition to that, those of you who wanted a copy of the agenda, we have extra copies of the agenda available in the rear of the chamber. Okay. Marshal, to your left and my right in the rear, there's a request for masks as well. All the way in the back next to the TV camera over there. Okay? As Beyonce would say, to the left, to the left. You must not know about me. Yes. Saved, Spirit-filled, fire baptized. Absolutely. Absolutely. Devil chasing, running out of him. Absolutely. The blood of Jesus still works. Brother Mason, you should know about that.
Spend too much time with our fears opposed to our faith.
So all right now. All right. Okay. So the commission's from the 8th, if you want me to. I can talk about leaving the door open now. All right. We are here, ready to get started. Madam Clerk, how are you today?
I'm doing great, sir. Thank you.
Fantastic. All right, we'll hereby call this meeting to order. Shall recognize Madam Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Call your attention to our invocation portion of our agenda, which will be given by Dr. Mike Hernan, lead pastor of the First Presbyterian Church of Augusta. After which we would like to ask Mr. James R. Riles, who's one of our most avid community activists, if he would please lead us into Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Please stand.
Thank you for the invitation to offer this invocation. And if I could take a point of personal privilege, I brought along our newest pastor at First Presbyterian Church. He's our youngest pastor, and he's our best-looking pastor, Pastor Chris Williams. He's going to offer the invocation. Thank you.
Father in heaven, you are so good. This is the day that you have made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Father, you are a God with a plan, and every person in this room is here for a reason. And we want to submit to your plan. And one thing we know, when we look at the cross, you love your people. And the call for us is to love you with all our heart and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And I pray that we would express that love for thy neighbor today in this meeting. I pray that we would think well for the city of Augusta. Help us, Spirit. We need you. Give us a spirit of humility so that we can reach the ends of Augusta with good. We pray all this in the power of your name. Pray this in Christ's name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pastor Herden, Mike, and Charles, would you please come forward? by these presidents be it known, First Presbyterian Church of Augusta, for your spiritual guidance and civic leadership serves as an example for all citizens of Augusta, given under my hand this 21st day of September, 2021. Thank you so much for your dual role.
Would you all join me in congratulating and thanking Pastor Mike? Thank you so much. They've been staunch partners in this community for such a long time, and we really appreciate First Pres and all of the community work that they're doing. Thank you so much. And welcome to the community, Pastor Chris.
Call your attention to the recognition portion of our agenda. The Augusta Commission would like to offer its congratulations. We would ask Mr. Charlie King from our Information Technology Department, who's our August 2021 Employee of the Month, please come forward. Ms. Allen, would you like to join Mr. King? Mr. Mayor, you're going to send Mayor Pro Tem?
We're going to send Mayor Pro Tem down.
Okay.
They're shorter than mine.
Mr. Administrator, were you wanting to? Okay. Augusta, Georgia, Employee Recognition Committee. Dear Mayor Davis, the Employee Recognition Committee has selected Charlie King as the August 2021 Employee of the Month for Augusta, Georgia. Mr. King works with information technology where he has been employed for nearly 4 years. He was nominated by Shelley Boatwright. Mr. King has played a major role in moving multiple department business processes into the CityWorks software platform, supporting the information technology strategic plan. These changes give departments better tools for reporting, management oversight, mobile capabilities, inter-department collaboration, and timekeeping. Mr. King has helped with many customers new to mobile solution feel comfortable and empowered doing software deployments. He is extremely responsive to existing customers with troubleshooting issues. No matter the situation, he constantly shows patience, encouragement, and professionalism. Not only is Mr. King passionate about his position with Augusta, he is also extremely dedicated to giving back to the city through various charitable initiatives information technology selects throughout the year. Recently, he was the first in line to donate book bags and generous monetary donation for Back to School Drive, benefiting the Healthy Grandparent Program through Augusta University. He then jumped on board to reach out to his circle to help grow this fundraiser. Based on this nomination and Charlie's outstanding service, the Committee Recognition Committee would appreciate you in joining us in recognizing Charlie King as the August 2021 Employee of the Month. Would you like to say something, Mr. King?
I'll take the opportunity.
Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. King. Really proud of the work that you have done and continue to do. You've been a staunch partner since the time that I certainly have been here. Thank you so much.
Well, I won't talk to you about our enterprise software CityWorks because then you get bored. I'm truly honored to receive the Employee of the Month for the month of August. This is my second recognition since coming to work for the City of Augusta. This is such an awesome, rewarding feeling, and it lets me know that I'm doing something right. But not to be mistaken, I don't do it alone. It is because of the leadership under Ms. Allen that I have and the support of my coworkers that I am able to function the way I do and able to perform the job set before me. I appreciate each and every one of them. Thank you.
Call your attention to the delegation portion of our agenda. Our first delegation, item B, Ms. Joyce Law, requesting on behalf of the Tasty Shop Media for Augusta Richmond County Information Technology Department to produce a map in support of an educational documentary which details the integration of Augusta Catholic high schools in the late 1960s.
Ms. Law, thank you for coming to share with us today. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for your commitment to public service. I am appearing on behalf of Tasty Shop Media Corporation, a Los Angeles, California-based film production company, to receive map-making assistance from the Information Technology Department, which is an extremely award-winning department. The executive producer is Nichelle Protho, whose great-grandparents owned the iconic Tasty Shop restaurant and small hotel at 1338 9th Street in the Laney Walker Historic District for several decades. The map will enable viewers to better understand how geographic distances impacted school closings and racial integration. During the past 4 years, I have served as the historical consultant for the film that chronicles one of Augusta's unique stories from the late 1960s. You may remember a short film presented at both the Morris Museum and the Laney Museum of Black History from Augusta University about the 1960s school integration. That film was from the educator's point of view. Why is this film important to Augusta's narrative? The class of 1968 film tells the specific story of the closing of Immaculate Conception Academy on Laney Walker Boulevard and the students' enfoldment into Aquinas High School on Highland Avenue. The class of 68 perspective is from the students' point of view, having to leave generational legacies of what had been very familiar to making the journey across the railroad tracks into the mostly unfamiliar Woodlawn and Somerville districts to reach Highland Avenue. The film details a sparsely researched topic about the gradual dissolve of community ties due to the loss of long-standing schools and congregations. However, there is also the celebration of unanticipated positive bonds. For example, the infusion of African-American athletes into the Aquinas Shamrock Lassies girl basketball team enabled Aquinas to win the Region 2 AAA crown for the 1967-1968 girls basketball season. The class of 1968 film is an educational documentary intended to be shown primarily at not-for-profit settings. For example, schools, museums, and film festivals. The IT department has the best resources to create and depict the relevant mapping so that the audience, particularly viewers who are either not from Augusta or recent residents, can better understand the cultural and emotional persuasions that the families encountered. The film is in the final stage of post-production and scheduled for private release on October 2nd at the Imperial Theater. The former students conducted their own fundraising. The IT department will receive full credit for its intellectual property ownership of the map. A general public viewing is anticipated before year's end, and additional rare photos, as they are found, will be included as points of transition in a narrative to showcase Augusta's scenes. thank you for your positive consideration of this request.
Thank you. Ms. Law, what is it specifically you're asking for? Support for
For the
IT?
IT department to create the map.
Okay. All right. Chair recognizes the Commissioner from the 6th.
Mr. Mayor, yes, can you, if unless Ms. Allen is prepared to answer this, you can forward this to the committee cycle, and we can go ahead and take action on it as opposed to trying to take action on it here today.
Yeah. I mean, Ms. Allen, would you approach, please? That's a pretty simple request, and that is to help with a map. What's your posture on this?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, because it's a time-sensitive matter, Ms. Law did not have the time to go before the committee because that would have been our recommendation. She has to have this approved now so that she can have it in time to get it to that group. So that's why she came before the commission.
All right, thank you.
And it's an only one-day project.
Yeah.
And so it has to have commission approval.
I mean, matters like this is why government exists, to help our community. And matters like this, we should look for every opportunity to say, we can do this. If I called Augusta University or Payne College and said, hey, here's a city project, can you help with this? They would say yes. So I don't think there's any objection from this commission to have that done. All right. Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
What-
since it's time sensitive, I fully support it. I
All
just
right,
didn't know
very
time,
good.
it was time sensitive.
Without objection, let's proceed with producing the map. Thank you, Ms. Law.
Thank you very much.
Next item, Madam Clerk.
Item number C, Mr. Bill Fenoy, regarding the naming of the Lake Olmsted Amphitheater in honor of the late former commissioners Andrew A. Jefferson and Grady Smith.
Okay, Chair recognizes former Commissioner Bill Fenoy. You have
Good
5 minutes.
afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. November and October 2018 were very difficult times for the city of Augusta and especially for this commission. In October of 2018, I can remember sitting up in the dais, and the mayor dismissed the meeting because we had received word that Commissioner Grady Smith had passed. Grady and I rarely voted on anything together. The only thing that we consistently voted on at the same time was the agenda. But Grady and I never disrespected each other. When we had committee meetings, it was fun sitting back in the break room and listening to Grady talk about his high school days, his college days, to talk about going to Bell Auditorium and seeing Jackie Wilson. And he was just a fun person to be around. And he brought a lot of joy and laughter to the commission. Then I can remember getting a phone call from Ms. Jackson in November saying that Andrew Jefferson had passed. I mean, we had just funeralized Grady and now Andrew. Andrew was a pillar in this community. Even though he didn't serve a full term on the commission, he was a former president of the Board of Education. Many electricians in the CSRA will tell you that the reason they are where they are is because of Andrew Jefferson not only being able to teach them how to be electricians, but teach them how to be responsible. When the Green Jackets decided to leave Augusta, it was Andrew Jefferson who decided that we're gonna make lemonade out of lemons. It was him who said that we should have an amphitheater. And we had several site visits to the stadium. And we met with engineers and other people in the community to see how we could make this happen. Most recently, I saw on the news where the commission is thinking about giving $100,000 for a James Brown festival. If this festival takes place, then I think it should take place at the Jefferson Smith Amphitheater at Lake Armstead. So I'm asking the commissioners to seriously consider naming the amphitheater after Andrew Jefferson and Grady Smith. I thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, our next delegation.
I didn't know if you wanted to ask this delegation if they would like to wait till the planning item comes up and address it. The 2167. Huh? Okay.
We have a series of delegations that are on the agenda regarding 3140 Washington Road, and we've got two groups of speakers for that, and we're planning on taking those at the same time that we take the agenda. Okay? All right, and I think the same thing holds true for item E and item D. Okay, item E and D. I'm sorry, E and F. Item E and F, we'll do the same thing. We'll hear from the delegations at that time. Okay?
Okay. This time we will call your attention to the consent agenda, items 1 through 28. Items 1 through 28. For the benefit of any objectors to the planning items, would you please signify your objection by raising your hand once the petition is read, if there are any objectors. Call your attention to item number 4, a request for concurrence to approve with conditions a rezoning from a Zone A agriculture, a Zone R1 one family residential, and a Zone B2 general business to a Zone R1D one family residential, affecting property at 2523 Tobacco Road. Item number 2 is a request to approve with conditions, requesting amended conditions to allow for commercial uses in addition to a beauty shop on property located at 1610 Montesana Avenue. There were objectors, sir? What did he say? Number 5, okay, thank you. Item number 6 is a request for rezoning from a Zone R1 one family residential to a Zone B1 neighborhood business, affecting property at 4506 Windsor Spring Road. Item number 7 is a request with conditions, a change of rezoning from a Zone R1 one family residential and an R1A one family residential to a Zone B2 general business, affecting property at 3140 Washington Road. Item number 8 is a request for rezoning from a Zone B1 neighborhood business to a Zone B2 general business, affecting property located at 2942 Peach Orchard Road. Item number 9 is a request for a rezoning from a Zone R1 one family residential to a Zone R1C one family residential, affecting property at 3911 Harcham Hill Road. Item number 10 is a request for, with conditions, a petition requesting amended conditions at property located at 2933 Gordon Highway. Are there any objectors to any of those planning petitions? Okay. And your objection to which petition? Is there a spokesperson for your group?
Okay, Madam.
Number 2?
Yeah, we've got multiple
They're all
groups here.
2?
You got multiple groups, Madam Clerk. Okay,
Okay.
would the gentleman in the front row please stand? Okay, and state for the record your objection to which petition?
Number 7.
Okay. All right, and to my right, there was a young lady who raised her hand. Okay, yes, please stand. Okay, we've got on the record number 7. All right, in the rear. Okay, all right. Okay, so we've got objections to number 7. All right, any other objections? Please stand. All right. Okay.
Okay, we'll pull it. So we have number 7 and number 9.
Yes.
Okay. Call your attention to the public service portion of our agenda. If there are any objectors to either of the alcohol petitions, would you please signify your objection once the petition is read? Call your attention to item number 12. It's a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Sunshine Express 2061 Gordon Highway. Item number 13 is a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Gas World located at 2013 Walton Way. Item number 14 is a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with Eagle Magic Mark located at 2601 Deansbridge Road. Item number 15 is a request for a retail package beer and wine license to be used in connection with the Shell Quick Stop located at 3105 Deansbridge Road. Are there any objectors to any of those alcohol petitions? Okay. Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, our consent agenda consists of items 1 through 28, with objectors to our planning petition, item number 7 and item number 9.
Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor. For item number 27, Madam Clerk, need to remove Ashkia White. We will keep the other name on there, but she's has a conflict of interest.
I'll just read it out for the record. Do it.
All right, so Madam Clerk, we're amending item number 27 to strike Askew White.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Commissioner from the 8th, is that all?
No, sir. And in regards to item number 9, I think the citizen that raised her hand said that she had some questions. I guess my first question is to ask if the developer is here. Okay.
Okay.
Do not see the developer, so I'm not sure how we could enter this.
Well, I mean, the fact that planning has moved for approval on this, I think warrants us going forward. It'd certainly be prudent to, if necessary, to have the citizens inquire with our planning director, Sherman. If they've got questions, that would be appropriate at the appropriate time. So we can do that. We'll pull that from the consent agenda, Madam Clerk, so that we can ask questions.
Thank you, Mayor.
No, we pulled them.
Okay?
Wait a minute.
So item number 9, pulling from the agenda. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 7th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Obviously,
Hold on, let's suspend for a moment. We're just going to pull it. Madam Clerk, we're just going to pull it.
You gonna pull those?
On the number 9. Number 9.
yes.
Right.
Pulling agenda item number 7, please.
We're going down the list now, Madam Clerk. The commissioner from the 8th had a sidebar with me about a matter. That's why I went to him first.
Oh, okay.
And then,
All right.
We're at the point now where we'll entertain motions to remove or add to the consent agenda. I believe, is that where you were?
Yes, sir. Well, we had finished our consent agenda with those 2 items, and if they're going to be pulled, we could go ahead on and add them as pulled. So
Number 9?
number 7 and number 9, Mr. Franum asked that 7 be pulled.
That's correct.
yeah, and can we add agenda item number 36 to the consent agenda?
Item 36, okay.
Mr. Mayor, we can add number 33 as well.
All right, hold on a minute.
Yes,
Hold on.
sir.
Hold on. All right, just hold on. I'm going to the commissioner from the 10th.
Yes, sir. Pull item 28 from consent, please.
Okay. All right, commissioner from the 2nd.
Yes, I would like to pull item number 23, please, from the consent.
Okay. All right, chair recognizes the commissioner from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is it too late for me to talk about item number 10 with Rob Sherman?
No, it's not too late. You're pulling
Okay.
that.
Yes,
Item
sir.
number 10 is being pulled.
Please. Thank you.
All right, chair recognizes the commissioner from the 1st.
Mr. Chairman, can we add number 33 to the consent agenda?
All right, there is objection.
Okay.
There's objection.
Yeah.
No, he was trying to add it to
Add
the
it.
Trying to add
consent.
it.
There is objection. Okay? Everybody hold.
36. Okay, yeah, add 36. You got it. Yeah, they're coming up.
Madam Clerk, let's pull number 19. I don't want to pull it, but I want to make a comment about it. I'm not sure who the author of this is. Item number 19, who the author of number 19 is. This is a resolution about the step up.
Commissioner Jordan Johnson had that placed on the Public Safety Committee. He sponsored that, and the committee approved it.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
In matters like this, I know the commission has taken a position, or at least the previous commission has, but when you have model resolutions like this that are requested to be adopted to show support, these are model resolutions, whether they're coming from GMA, NACO, NLC, or ACCG. These things should be adopted as a matter of record, with us simply inserting Augusta, Richmond County. And so for us to take another 4 weeks or 2 weeks is just not prudent. These types of things should happen across the board because they've already been drafted at NACO, at NLC, at ACCG, and really this is simply just an indication of Augusta showing support for wanting to reduce the number of people with mental illness in jails. Now we're going to go send it through the attorney who will draft the resolution. We'll come back and debate two times. And I'm on my soapbox, but these are things that really should just happen as a matter of record. All right, I'm going to go to the commission from the first. I won't pull it then, but I think we should take that approach where we're just bringing these forward because you've gotten them from NACO, NLC, or whoever, and just adopt them. Chair recognizes commission from the first.
Wait. I guess my question is, I think that's a valid statement. I guess the question is, what is the process for this? But I mean, since you're not going to pull it, I guess I'll leave it. I'll just withdraw my statement.
Well, the process is what you just did, and
Yeah,
that is
that's what I was.
the attorney is going to go and draft the resolution. You'll bring it back to committee. You'll debate it, and then hopefully you'll pass it to the full commission, and they'll adopt it.
All right. I'll withdraw.
All right. We'll leave it on the agenda. All right, Madam Clerk, could you take us through the list? Are there any other motions to add or remove from the consent agenda? All right. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 7 for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent and pulled agenda items as stated.
Second.
Voting.
Mr. Garrett, Mr. Son, and Mr. Mason. That motion carries unanimously.
Madam Clerk,
Yes, sir.
we will go top, bottom. Let's hear the delegations for the 3140 Washington Road matter.
Okay, that's item number 7.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Item number 7, and then we'll hear D and G.
Okay. Item number 7, once again, is a request for a rezoning from a zone R1 one family residential and an R1A 1 family residential to a zone B2 general business affecting property at 3140 Washington Road and 105 Warren Road. Are you asking Mr. Sherman to go first and then the objectors?
We'll do that, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Sherman.
Item number 7, Director Sherman. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir.
Director Sherman, go ahead, proceed.
Mayor, Commissioners, number 7 on the agenda is Z2167. It's a request for concurrence with the Augusta Planning Commission to approve with the conditions stated below a petition by Martinez Properties LLC on behalf of Deborah E. Wu, Donna R. Wu, Rhonda L. Wu, Thomas C. Davis, and K.T. Davis requesting a rezoning from Zone R1, one-family residential, and R1A, one-family residential, to Zone B2, general business, affecting property containing 4.47 acres and located at 3140 Washington Road and 107 Warren Road. It's tax map 11.2, parcel 1.01, and tax map 11, parcel 99. The property in question is, of course, located on Washington Road. Give you a reference. It's across from where Dairy Queen, where the Dairy Queen is located, in the shopping center. Recently, directly across from this property, rezoned.
Can we get you to speak into the mic,
Yes,
please?
yes. Directly across from the property is you had a recent rezoning for a oil changing shop, 5-minute oil change. This property is between Warren Road and Kings Chapel Road on Washington Road. It is, as I was saying, roughly 4.4 acres. It backs up to Montclair neighborhood. I believe maybe 6 or 7 properties, residential zone properties, abut this property. It was presented to the Planning Commission. During the Planning Commission meeting, I believe there were 10 people who were objecting and 4, I believe, who were there to support the application. The staff recommended that the property be approved for the B2 zoning. It's, as you all know, Washington Road is a commercial strip. I believe for the most part, all properties on Washington Road are zoned commercial for the most part. The traffic engineer, we've consulted with him based on the proposed layout. How do I get it up there? Yeah. And based on the way they're proposing the layout, the Washington Road will have a decel lane. There's a traffic light at Kings Chapel Road. There's a traffic light at Warren Road. Do not feel that there will be a traffic issue on Washington Road. The opinion is that the traffic light at Warren Road is underutilized. It's just not that much traffic to believe that there will be a concern based on this proposed use. The applicant group has met with the neighborhood association and the neighbors. They've had a couple of meetings on the 13th. Last week ago, this past Monday, they met. And there were some issues that were discussed. Ms. Delaney was at the meeting on behalf of the Planning Commission. The applicant is proposing some additional conditions on the property, and I say it that way, in addition to what the staff has presented and the Planning Commission is recommending. That is essentially it as far as the Planning Commission staff's proposal. At this time, do you want to ask the applicant or to address?
Ms. Bonner,
I have a question, Mayor Pro Tem.
hang on a second.
Yes, sir. You want to let the applicant address the issue, and then we'll let the delegation
Okay.
ask for objectors, get a spokesperson for the objectors.
Okay.
And we'll count.
So we're going with the applicant first.
Yeah.
Okay. Who is the applicant? Okay. Thank you, sir.
You can get this one.
Good afternoon. My name's Darren Meadows. I'm a partner with the Hull Barrett Law Firm here in Augusta, Georgia. I'm appearing on behalf of the applicant, Martinez Properties LLC and Hudson Automotive Group. As I'm sure you all know, Hudson operates the Hudson Lexus dealership on Washington Road, which straddles the county line between Augusta, Richmond County and Columbia County, as well as the Acura dealership just down the road in Columbia County. Hudson also has 8 locations in South Carolina selling 9 different new car brands. So obviously they're well qualified to identify prime locations for new car sales facilities. This location with Washington Road frontage, close proximity to Interstate 20 and the major Fury's Ferry intersection meets their criteria. This is one of the last remaining residentially zoned properties fronting Washington Road in the area. The Goodwill complex is directly across the road. B1 zone properties abut on the left, and across the Warren Road intersection to the right are property zone B2, which is the same designation as required for an auto dealership that we are seeking. Anytime you seek a rezoning for commercial use adjacent to residential properties, we know that some current concerns and some objections are going to be raised. Because Hudson Automotive Group is a community-oriented operation, we worked with our realtor, Troy Jordan of Jordan Trotter Real Estate, to proactively communicate with potential neighbors. Because the subject property, as Mr. Sherman says, it abuts 6 lots that are on the north end of the Montclair subdivision, Troy Jordan contacted the Montclair HOA president, and Troy and I went and met with the HOA board in early August to discuss our potential zoning application and any concerns that they may have. Following that meeting, we understand the HOA board members spoke with the owners of all the adjacent properties, and they sent us a list of requested conditions and considerations. After some discussions and adjustments, we agreed to accept their requested conditions, which we submitted to Planning and Development staff prior to the Zoning Commission meeting. As Mr. Sherman alluded, on September 13th, we, along with Carla Delaney, attended a community meeting where we heard and responded to questions and concerns from all of the HOA members who were in attendance. Subsequently, we received some additional comments from the adjacent property owners. We have made some additional revisions to the voluntary conditions in response to those comments, and we sent those to Planning and Zoning staff yesterday afternoon. To address the most common concern of traffic, a realistic estimate of visitors per day based on what we see at the Lexus and Acura stores is less than 100. Even if you assume 150 cars coming in and out every day, it will be a negligible impact as compared to the number of vehicles you would have were restaurants or office complexes or other retail establishments be put on this property. Augusta Traffic Engineering has given their opinion that the traffic impact is not a concern. Other than traffic, the primary concerns that we have heard relate to noise and lights. In the voluntary conditions that we have submitted, we are taking several steps to address these concerns, including increasing the buffer width from the required 20 to 25 feet, enhancing the vegetation within that buffer, and offering to put the fence on the development side of the buffer line rather than on the property line so that the residents can maintain their current backyard view without having a new fence plopped right at the back of their property. Another concern expressed was, well, what happens when Jim Hudson sells? Obviously, Hudson Automotive has no intention of selling this property. They intend to establish a highly successful dealership here that will be there for decades to come. But to address the concern, Hudson Automotive has agreed to accept a condition making this rezoning approval essentially equivalent to a special exception. If any future buyer intends to change the use from an auto dealership to anything else that would be allowed under B2, they will have to come back before you for zoning approval. This clearly could impact the resale value for Hudson Automotive, but we are confident enough in our business plan that we believe this is an easy thing to agree to if it will provide some assurance to the homeowners. With regard to the positive impacts that can be expected, we anticipate over 30 jobs to be created. Based upon numbers from the Lexus and Acura facilities, we expect real and personal property tax revenue to Augusta Richmond County once the facility is built will exceed $100,000 annually. Sales and use tax revenue is also expected to exceed $100,000 annually. And the vehicle sales tax revenue is expected to exceed $300,000 annually. Those are conservative values based upon the Acura and the Lexus locations. That yields over $500,000 annual tax revenue that would come to Augusta, Richmond County. Those numbers could be, and we hope they will be, much higher. So I'm prepared to answer any questions. We do have a resident who has property in the area that's directly adjacent who is here who would be glad to speak on our behalf if you would like to hear from him.
Do we have any questions of the lawyer? Any questions? You can't hear me?
Yes.
Does anyone have any questions
Well, you're asking from the commission.
of the lawyer? Okay. I see McKnight first.
Yeah, I was just going to see if we could speak to the resident that
is here in support.
Yes, sir.
We're gonna move
Hang on,
forward
wait,
with that.
hang on a
just a
second.
moment.
Hang on a
Yes.
second with that. Hang on.
Yeah.
Mr.
Okay.
Garrett.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I have a question for the attorney. You mentioned that Lexus is also considering moving here. Didn't they just build a brand new facility on Washington Road?
No, I did not say Lexus is intending to move here. This would be a new facility, another brand that Hudson would be bringing in to establish a new dealership at this location.
Okay, I was a little confused because I heard you mention Lexus and Acura a couple of times, and
Yeah, I'm sorry. No, we're going to bring in a new dealership. I unfortunately can't divulge the name because there's still negotiations going on. Until we get the rezoning approved, we can't get the commitment from the brand. I can say that in this market, Jim Hudson is known as a luxury car dealer, and we are looking at luxury and upscale brands, and that's what we're hoping to bring here.
thanks, sir.
Mr. Franon.
Thank you. You mentioned that the adjacent properties behind it were for or against. Do you have the numbers of the properties? Did you speak to every homeowner behind the property?
Mr. Jordan has done the bulk of the communications. We have been speaking with Joey Aranda is one of the property owners immediately behind, and he has been acting as a spokesperson for, I believe, 4 others. Mr. Todd Lamb is here. He's another of those property owners immediately behind. Mr. Jordan has spoken with Mr. Welch, and I believe the other ones are all communicating to myself and Mr. Jordan through Mr. Aranda.
Gotcha. I just want to state that Ms. Newman, I don't know if she's here, but she was against it, and I got an email. I just want to state that. Let's talk about the height of the building in B2. How high will it be?
I believe we have a limitation in the approval of, is it 45 feet? Is that correct? Yeah, we do not anticipate that being a problem. The Lexus dealership is a bit of a palace. It's unusual. We wouldn't expect it to be as tall as the Lexus dealership. We're confident we can stay within the limitation as provided.
Okay. And then I know one of the residents reached out to me about the lights and the intercom, and you kind of touched on it, but is there an intercom system within the facility or no?
No, the intercom systems are no longer used in these facilities. The old concept of there being a loudspeaker outside saying Bob, line 2, that doesn't exist. That will not be used. That will not happen.
Okay. And then my last question, the 25-foot buffer that's now 25 landscape with the fence on your side, what was it when you started? Well,
20.
It was 20.
Yeah, the minimum requirement
Okay.
is 20 between the commercial and the residential. In the last week, we've talked, and they've asked us, show of good faith, will you increase that a little bit? Obviously, we want to get as many cars on the lot as we can, but we talked with our design engineer. They looked at it. We can increase it to 5 feet and only give up a few parking spaces, and in good faith, we've agreed to do that. So whether it's in the formal agenda or not, we've put it in writing. We are going to do that.
Okay. And then the last question I have is that as far as the test driving into the neighborhood, is that in that they wouldn't test drive? I mean, I know that's tough to.
Yes, we
is
have.
that kind of like a.
We have put in also the voluntary stipulations that we gave that we would have a corporate policy that test drivers cannot go into the Montclair surface streets, unless of course they're a Montclair resident and they want to drive it home and show it to the spouse or whatever. We would certainly think that the Montclair residents would allow for that exception, but we will have that as a policy. And they have a policy that test drives are chaperoned. Basically, someone from the dealership goes on the test drives unless it's a take-home kind of situation where credit check and all that has been done. Just the drive up, hey, let me go take it for a ride, there's someone from the dealership with you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Clark.
Thank you. I have just a couple of questions. In one part of your statement, you said that the traffic anticipated is 100 cars a day or less.
Correct.
Okay, does that take into consideration not only the people that are coming in looking at the automobiles in order to possibly purchase, does that take into consideration the traffic coming in and out of the service bays as well?
Yes, sir. We base that on estimates from the Acura and the Lexus dealers. The Lexus is a larger number. The Acura is a smaller number. What they keep track of are customers who are engaged. So if they come in and they speak with the salesperson writes that down. If they come into the service department, that's tracked. What they don't track are tire kickers. So people that just drive in, look around, say, no, I'm not interested. Leave me alone. They don't actually keep a number on those. And the parts counter, they don't have an exact number on those. So we added to that. At the Acura dealership, it's less than 50 of what they keep track of. So just being generous, we said double that to account for tire kickers, et cetera. So 100 cars a day driving in and out is, we think, a good, realistic, conservative estimate. But again, we've said, make it 150. That's less than Chick-fil-A serves at lunchtime every day. So any other use that might go here would have considerably more traffic than what we're talking about.
So the answer is you really don't know how many cars are going to be in and out a day.
I cannot give you an exact number.
An estimate, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, another thing that I heard you say is that they plan on being a dealership that's going to be operating there for decades and decades. And then you said any future buyer. So that opens up a whole lot of concerns again for me. That if you're going to make a decade-long commitment, then why all of a sudden are you looking at a caveat for a future buyer?
Because the residents requested it.
I've had, and let me say this and then I'll close. I had over 60 residents in that neighborhood, Warren Road, Montclair, in the area, contact me. And out of 60 people or about that contacted me, only 3 people said that they were not opposed to it. So I just got a lot of concerns over it for the neighborhood, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Bonner, we should be going to delegation.
Yes,
Did they wish to hear from Mr. Lamb?
Hang on a second. We need to go to Ms. Bonner.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
We're good with you.
Our
Thank you.
our course of action next will be to count all those that are in support of this petition. Would you please signify your support by raising your hand? Those that are in support. And we would like for you to please, among yourselves, if you could select a spokesperson. 6 supports, okay? Now we will ask those that are objectors to please raise your hand.
Ms. Bonner.
Is that 26? 26.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem.
And we'll ask the same for the objectors. If you could please select a spokesperson for your group to speak on your behalf.
Ms. Bonner.
We will now address
We
the
have-
one on the
We have some
agenda.
petitions that
Yeah.
the the commissioner from the 7th has.
Yeah, I just want to state for the record that I have 115 people signed with their addresses here, just for the record.
We're gonna let them speak.
My arm is hurting.
Ms. Bonner. So we got 2 groups of objections. We're gonna let both the leaders.
My arm is hurting so bad. My arm is hurting so bad, I can't.
You said one is on the agenda.
Here's our posture regarding item number 7. We're going to hear from the 2 delegations that are on the agenda, and then we'll hear from a supporter of this initiative from the audience, and someone who's an objector. I believe we've got 2 objectors already on the delegation, so you may not need anyone else. But that's our posture. Madam Clerk, we're going to go in that order.
Okay. Call your attention to item number D, Mr. Jim Daniel, regarding zoning petition Z2167, 3140 Washington Road.
Mr. Daniel, when you approach, you have 5 minutes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, for this opportunity to speak on this zoning request to convert 4.5 acres from Washington Road and Warren Road from R1 to B2 for a proposed car dealership. This borders about 600 feet of Montclair residence property. 600 feet is the length of 2 football fields from one goal line to the next. And this property borders Montclair residence more than it does the Washington Road and Warren Road combined. The approval of this zoning request will have a historical and dramatic impact and will transform the appeal and the stability of the Montclair forever. Historical because Montclair has gone 56 years with property adjacent to us being zoned for residential use. Montclair is a planned neighborhood of more than 500 homes with sidewalks on both sides of the street, beautiful tree canopy, and large parks at both ends of the neighborhood. In reference to the dramatic and negative impacts, the reasons are property values of homes adjacent to the proposed car dealership nearby will drop in value immediately because prospective home buyers would not want to purchase a home and live next to a car dealership. Thus, over time, the desirability of the entire neighborhood will be impacted by the unsightly fixture of a 45-high building at the top elevation point of the neighborhood being lit up with a concentration of 45 or more light posts 25 feet high, with fixtures beaming bright light rays from sunset to sunrise 7 days a week. This intrusion of light rays into our neighborhood is indeed not appealing. At this site, car sales would occur, but also noisy use of air-powered tools and the handling of hazardous chemicals and petroleum products. Converting 4 acres to a 16,000-foot square building and 230 parking spaces will create draining problems. The city of Augusta this month alone had work crews using heavy equipment, digging up drain lines and sidewalks to correct current draining problems in Montclair on the streets of Kings Chapel and Gardeners Mill. The collective asset value of Montclair homes on the tax books is over $100 million. This $100 million tax digest will be harmed. And this does not count the negative effects of the values of approximately 300 homes along the Warren Road and connected streets. Furthermore, there will be an increase of motor vehicle traffic in the neighborhoods with customers entering and leaving the dealership. Another factor is that the dealership exit on Warren Road is only about a quarter of a mile from the Warren Road Elementary School and the County Recreational Center. This is an area with a heavy concentration of children and youth, and this is a further confirmation that auto dealerships should not be in the backyards of neighborhoods and resident dwelling. But let me share with you some other truths. The approval of this zoning request will set an undesirable and a harmful zoning precedence. Why? Because the 11 existing car dealerships selling 21 car brands in a 5-mile stretch on Washington Road from the Mercedes-Benz dealership to the Ford dealership in Evans, none back up to any established and planned neighborhoods like Montclair. The two other major car dealerships in Richmond County, the Chevrolet and the Ford dealership that Gerald Jones have, are not located next to any residential neighborhoods. The Augusta-Aiken Highway corridor has 7 car dealerships selling 11 different brands, and not a single one is next or near a residential neighborhood or apartments. Why is this? The reason is simple. Established neighborhoods such as Montclair and car dealerships do not make a good zoning mix. Previous Augusta-Richmond County commissions and county zoning boards established and maintained this standard and principle concerning the placement of car dealerships next to residential areas.
Mr. Daniel?
Yes, sir.
I hate to do it to you. We've got more petitioners, but your time has expired.
Well, sir, the fellow that was up here before me, I think he got a lot more time than what you are granting me. And I've just got 2 more paragraphs.
Well, you've got someone who's going to speak after you, and they'll come and echo the sentiments that you've shared already. Okay? You're not the only one. You've got another person who's going to speak similar to what you're saying. They'll have 5 minutes as well. Thank you, sir.
I have a real problem with that.
I understand.
Me too.
Our next delegation, item G, Ms. Kathleen Kathy Kennedy, regarding zoning change request for 3140 Washington Road and 107 Warren Road.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners.
You
Thank
have
you
5
for this
minutes.
opportunity. My name is Kathy Kennedy. I have lived in Montclair for almost 3 years. I am representing those in Montclair who are opposed to the car dealership at 3140 Washington Road. Our quiet neighborhood is known well in Augusta, Richmond County. We are loved for our canopy trees, sidewalks, and beautiful parks. We have a history as a neighborhood who is involved with each other, engaging with our neighbors, and participating in our parks. Our opposition is based upon our understanding of the impact this dealership will have on our neighborhood. The number one concern I heard throughout the neighborhood, talking with my neighbors who opposed this plan, was the impact the dealership would have on traffic. Jim Hudson Group expects as many as 150 cars will travel through the proposed dealership a day. Most customers would be residents of Augusta. Universally, Augustans like to avoid Washington Road and use other alternatives to get to their destination. We expect they will choose to exit the dealership using the road proposed to Warren Road, then turn right down Warren Road and immediately take the road West Avenue in either direction to travel through residential neighborhoods. Using west into Montclair takes you to Gardner's Mill Road and quickly to King's Chapel, with a shorter light than Warren Road, where a busy Washington Road also has traffic coming from Fury's Ferry. If you want to avoid Washington Road, they can weave through the neighborhood of Montclair to Pleasant Home Road at Crane Ferry, exit left, and now they can get anywhere they want in Augusta quickly. If they travel further down Warren Road, they will impact the Warren Road Elementary School and Warren Community Center, where there is much activity and traffic. The clear cutting and large parking lot has raised concern about water runoff and drainage. We have asked to see the full engineering drawings to better understand this issue. We were told there are no other drawings. We were told the preliminary sketch is all that is available, and they can't say what will be done on the parcel. They don't have a brand yet, don't know where the building will be located, how many parking spots will be needed, where the bays will be, how many lights or the light locations. There is more, but you can clearly understand how much no one knows. We do not know how many decibels will reach our residents. They plan a plant noise strategy and wall that may not be a wall, we were told. They don't know where this will be, and at the time that this is the first I learned what I learned today, and did not tell us how effective it would be. I was told they have 20 dealerships. Their Lexus dealership would allow them to approximate the noise impact. The nearby Acura dealership lets us know the major noise is going to come from all the activity in the service department. The service department at both of these locations begin at 7:30 a.m. Monday through Saturday. The traffic will then begin at 7:30 a.m. and continue until sales end at 7 or 7:30 Monday through Friday until 6 p.m. on Saturday. The loss of the forest canopy will allow lumens from the high light poles below the shields to travel as all light does in all directions. The lights will shine from sundown to sunrise 7 days a week, and lights will cover the approximate 4 acres. The loss of a canopy greater than just 25 feet, if there is even going to be the forest, the trees now present for 25 feet, and the impact of the light lumens will make this part of Montclair look very different than any other streets in our neighborhood. Finally, this is an issue of someone without a plan, with no facts, and no detailed engineering drawings, who are not equipped to answer residents' genuine concerns, especially traffic. We are unable to compromise or have meaningful conversations toward a compromise. We repeatedly asked. No answer, no facts, no details. For these reasons, the residents of Montclair, in opposition to the dealership, are saying to the commissioners in one voice, no, we do not want the proposed car dealership on Washington Road. Thanks.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Hear from the supporters and then back to the objectors, or?
Yes, let's go ahead and if there's one additional individual from the objectors who's in the audience, you'd like to speak on this matter, this is your opportunity. Do we have anyone else? All right. We'll proceed, Madam Clerk, with the supporter.
Okay. A spokesperson for the supporters.
Okay. And if you would, just state for the record your name and your address. You'll have 5 minutes as well, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. My name's Todd Lamb. I live at 110 Kings Chapel Road. That is on the corner of Kings Chapel and Gardner's Mill. And I also own property at 3116 West Road. So I'll be affected on both sides. I'm in support of it. It's prime property on Washington Road. It's just a matter of time before a developer comes in and purchases it, and we're here again. It's a big piece of property. We would love for something different to go in there, but for the size and the price, we're very limited on what's going to move in. I would much rather have an automobile dealership that has good hours, not open late at night, not multiple restaurants, not office complexes with multiple different occupants. As far as traffic goes with car dealerships, I don't think it's going to be a big impact. Again, I'm affected on both sides. Each side of Warren Road, I've got property. We're big outdoor people. I just spent a lot of money on my house, complete renovation. We're big outdoors. We're always in our backyard. My property doesn't have direct contact because of the way the houses on each side of me block. So, but it's still right in my backyard. With what they have proposed as far as the undisturbed buffer, the wall, fence, whatever you want to call it, we hear fence, we've been told masonry wall, whatever it is, and them willing to put it on their side is even better, in my opinion. I've talked to my neighbors, and of course we're all against it, but this is the lesser of all evils. I said, I don't want a restaurant in my backyard. From my other property on West Road, I can hear the Mexican restaurant on Friday and Saturday nights. And that's a long way away, the one beside Chick-fil-A. I can hear that at night when they're playing music. Lighting, don't really think it's going to be a big issue because of course, all the updated LEDs, things like that, the natural buffer. Yeah, we're going to get some light, and again, lesser of the evils. I've spoke to my direct neighbors and the one further up on King's Chapel. The first house on King's Chapel on the left, he is waiting on the deepest pockets to come by his property. He don't care who it is. The other two properties, the one to my immediate right, they've been there. It was their parents' home. Parents passed. The two daughters moved in. Of course, they're opposed it, but again, lesser of the evils. On the opposite side of me, again, another resident that does not plan on leaving anytime soon. Not for it, but not against it either. That's all I've got. If anyone has any questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Thank you, Mr. Lamb. We appreciate that. Okay. Madam Clerk, we've heard from both supporters and those opponents for this matter. You have in your hand from the commissioner from the 7th a petition. Commissioner from the 7th, that petition is in opposition to this matter. Okay. All right. And I've got the Mayor Pro Tem in the queue. Chair recognizes Mayor Pro Tem.
Light on. Motion to approve.
All right. I have a motion to approve with a proper second.
Substitute.
All right. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 10th. State your inquiry.
Motion to deny.
Second.
All right. This is a substitute motion. The commissioner from the 10th has a substitute motion to deny with a second from the commissioner from the 8th. All right. The chair recognizes the commissioner from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a question in regards to whether or not the Homeowners Association president or the Neighborhood Association president, I'm not sure what you're calling it. Do we have that person here, the president? President. Okay. Mr. Mayor, I was having some questions in regards to how many of the homeowners under this association were for. I see you got 119 against, and I was wondering how many was it for that came up underneath that homeowners association with all the stipulations that have been met. And is there anybody that can answer that?
Let's do this because we've got two motions. I've got a substitute and a main motion. The planning director has come before us and shared with us that there are 8 stipulations. The Planning Commission has moved to approve this. It's now before the full commission for adoption. There are 8 stipulations that are included in this, and as I have heard, and everyone who's in attendance has heard, these were concessions that were brought before on the basis of conversations with the neighborhood. I think that, again, even strikes in regards to the petition that's before us. Let's do this to the commissioner from the 4th. Let's just see where our votes get us. and go from there. But to your point, the neighborhood association president is not here. I can now only imagine that that individual would be one of the 115 petitioners. No? Okay, the commissioner from the 7th says that's not the case. Okay. All right, let's vote. Madam Clerk, we have a substitute motion to deny this.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
vote on that first.
Yes, sir. Okay. There you go.
Imagine that.
That motion ties. Go ahead. With Mr. Jordan Johnson voting yes. You're voting for this substitute motion to deny.
You're asking me?
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
vote is
Mr.
cast.
Mason voting yes.
I think,
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, if you'll just read the votes. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Sean Franham voting yes. Mr. Brandon Garrett and Mr. John Clark. Voting no, Mr. Dennis Williams, Ms. Catherine McKnight, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan, and Ms. Francine Scott.
Madam Clerk. All right, I want to go back to the, that motion fails.
Mayor not voting?
Absolutely.
Okay. Mayor's not voting.
We're now on the
Okay.
main motion.
This motion is to approve the petition.
That's a motion to approve. Voting.
That motion fails 5-5. With Mr. Jordan Johnson voting yes is Mr. Dennis Williams, Ms. Catherine McKnight, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan, and Ms. Francine Scott. Voting no, Mr. Jordan Johnson, Mr. Alvin Mason, Mr. Sean Franham, Mr. Brandon Garrett, and Mr. John Clark.
I just voted.
Let's see. Yeah. There you go. The mayor votes yes. The motion carries.
Everybody stand at ease. We'll stand at ease.
John Clark. John Clark. Okay, Mr. Mayor, we go with item 9. We had objector. We pull that.
If everyone can take your seats and cease all conversations. We've got a lot of business in front of us. A lot of business in front of us. Take your seats, cease all conversations.
Okay.
For those who've been in this city for any period of time, we've gone from having Motor Mile to one dealership after another leaving our county. And at some point, it needs to stop. Madam Clerk, number 9.
Item 9 is a request with condition, a rezoning from a zone R1 one family residential to a zone R1C one family residential affecting property located at 3911 Harsham Hill Road.
Well, the commissioner from the 8th. Okay, that was this. All right, Director Sherman.
Okay, Mayor, Commissioners, the property in question is, you access it off Goshen Drive. It is roughly 104 acres. They're proposing 194 detached homes, R1C 60-foot wide lots. The density, because of a portion of the property is wetlands, floodplain, undevelopable. It will be 1.86 units per acre. So it's actually low density for the amount of land that they have. And the staff is recommending that it be approved, recommended to the Planning Commission that it be approved, and the Planning Commission also approved it and has forwarded that recommendation to you. And there are 6 conditions attached to the recommendation for approval.
Okay. And again, the developer is not here. Oh, he's back. Okay, the commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
I know there's a couple residents that are here that they've stated they're not technically opposed or in support, but they have spoken with the developer, and the developer has promised them things. And so I was hoping the developer was going to be here. Yes. Oh, okay. So if we could have.
All right, so let's ask we'll have the developer approach. All right. Our posture is that the Planning Commission, again, has made a decision to approve this, and there are stipulations once again.
Yes.
If the developer would come forward, it's my hope that if you'll come to this side. Thank you. All right. It's my hope that the questions had been posed. All right. If we'll have, ma'am, if you'll approach to this side.
And while they're making their way up there, Mayor.
Proceed.
Todd, I know that you've had a conversation with them.
Yeah, we spoke after the planning meeting a couple weeks ago.
Okay. And they were really, the concern was that the request that they made out of you never made it to the official documents. So that's really the reason that they're here, is just to make sure that what you guys discussed was part of this.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right.
She had a question.
They have a
She had
question.
a question for the developer.
All right. Chair recognizes. Please state for the record your name and your address.
My name is Susan Hutchins. It's 1465 Goshen Road.
Larry Hutchins, and I live at the same place she does.
All right. If you would, state your question.
Okay, just a few questions that we had. You know, we were concerned about the utilities and where this is going to go. We know you're going to put another road on the other side of us. All this property is going to back our property, and we're going to be sandwiched in. Are you going to be going through our property or down Holcomb Hill Road? Or is all the utilities gonna be going down the new road that you're proposing? And there's like 10 houses on our end of the neighborhood, and I think we all have septic tanks. Can we tie into the sewer system when you do this?
All right, before you answer that, because this is a much broader conversation now, and as such, it's my hope that these types of matters would have been resolved before we got to this point. Now we're asking the developer on the floor whether or not he's going to provide connections and tie-ins to sewer systems. These matters have happened before. I'm just going to say that, okay? Let's do this. What I'd like to do is we're gonna just suspend on this matter, Madam Clerk. We're gonna come back to it, and we're gonna give the planning director, the developer, and these residents an opportunity to have a conversation right here. And I'm gonna move on to my next item. We'll come back to this, okay?
Mr. Mayor, point of personal privilege, no mind.
All right, I'm going to recognize you, Commissioner. Give me just a second, but that's what I'd like to see you do. We're going to go up to our next item, Director Sherman, developer, and residents, and let's have that conversation, and then we'll come back and I'll have the planning director speak to us about any amendments or changes we need to make as it relates to this. All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, just for the record, I understand the question, one of the questions that the residents just posed to develop them, and that if they're going to have a sewer and everything there, that means that there's something they can tie in, and that'll be the county that can actually do that because it'd be existing at the time, so that's an easy fix. If it's within, I didn't hear how many yards, but that's an easy fix.
I agree with that, and I still want them to have that conversation.
Yes, I agree with that.
That takes us to item number 10. Commissioner McKnight had a question regarding this petition. She asked that it be pulled.
That's correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Item 10 is to approve with conditions a petition to decrease the width of lots at property at 2933 Gordon Highway.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 3rd.
Yes, I was going to see if Rob Sherman stepped out.
Ms.
We've got
Carla.
the Deputy Director, Mr. Laney, who's here.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a question. I was listening in on the meeting the other day, but what about sidewalk? That's something that I talked to some people about needing on both sides for safety issues. Can you fill me in a little bit more on that, and why is it that there's only one sidewalk instead of two being placed?
Yes, ma'am. Currently, the ordinance requires only a sidewalk be installed on one side of the neighborhood or of the street. There is a general push to be consistent with the best practices in other communities in regards to neighborhoods and requiring those sidewalks be installed on both sides of the street. At this point, the Planning Commission has not mandated that as part of the requirements, but it has come forth from the commission floor at times that sidewalks be installed on both sides of the street.
So, in other words, that we can't get that done, or can we? I mean, can we push to get sidewalks on both sides?
Technically, the commission could ask for it, and the developer can attest to whether or not they can or can't comply.
Also about the vinyl siding. Can you tell me a little bit more about the siding that they're going to use? That's something that was brought up too as a concern.
Yes, ma'am. Currently, one of the best practices in planning, we don't mandate the exterior materials outside of historic districts usually. So what we tend to see is the developer will determine what the market can bear, and that's what they go with. We don't tend to stipulate that it has to be brick or siding. I will say that the Planning Commission has asked us to review some design standards and bring them back. And but as of right now, that's not typically done because of market conditions.
Okay. May I ask, how do we, this is new to me, since I'm just new on board, how do we do this if we want to bring up trying to do both sides sidewalk and look at this? And where do we go with that, Mr. Mayor?
I think the matter that's before us today is a matter for approval and adoption. the conversation about sidewalks. There's been a major push in the city of Augusta for sidewalks. This commission has moved aggressively in pursuit of that, to include now that as new developments are being brought forward in the city of Augusta, there's a requirement to put sidewalks in, there's a requirement to put street lights in. All of those things are now requirements for us to move in a similar fashion as other communities. And so I think it's appropriate for you to have a follow-up conversation with the members of the Planning and Development Department to talk about that. But as it relates to this matter, I think a motion to approve would be appropriate.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Voting.
Mr. Garrett. That motion carries 9-1, with Ms. McKnight voting no. Mr. Mayor, I think you've addressed item 19. You had
We didn't pull it. It remained on the
okay.
consent agenda. We didn't pull it.
Commissioner Dennis Williams asked that item 23 be pulled, and that's a motion to direct administration to identify $420,000 to be divided equally among all districts in the current fiscal year 2021-22 budgets for traffic calming devices for each district residential areas, and to approve the revised traffic calming policy.
Mr. Chairman, I simply wanted to indicate for the record that I'm voting no for this particular item. That's it.
Hey.
Listen, everybody suspend. We're back to that place again. We don't need to be at that place, everybody. You're in the queue. I'll recognize you. The commissioner from the second was recognized. He asked this motion item to be pulled. He certainly has opportunity to express his discontent or concern. He's done that. And there are other folks in the queue who want to speak to this, I believe. So let's just make sure we hear everybody. Okay? Chair recognizes the commissioner from the seventh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question's for the administrator. Administrator, we've talked about raises for public safety and other areas. Do you have concerns of this amount of money and not being able to fund that if we do allocate this kind of money in this respect?
So I think that's why I asked for the flexibility to be able to look at multiple funding sources. We're still a little bit too early in the FY22 budget to know how it's going to impact us, but it is a new cost when we're looking at a flat budget, so we'll have to cut somewhere. So in short, I'm not saying that I have concerns. If it's a priority of the commission, then we will deliver on it, but I think you are making a very good point that if we add this new expense, the cuts will have to come from somewhere else.
Yeah, I think my next concern is that, one district might need 30,000 and one district need 100,000, and it says divided equally, but if one district doesn't use it, are we just going to vote on allowing that to happen? Or are we just going to allow that to happen? And I just feel like we should do a little bit more of a deeper survey into each district to see what's needed. My district had speed bumps in a lot of areas. They took them out. Maybe my district doesn't need it as much as other districts, but just to allocate 420,000 before we kind of deep dive a little bit on it, that's just a little bit concerning for me right now. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 8th.
Thank you, Mayor. This question is for the administrator.
Absolutely.
Administrator, at our last meeting, we discussed possibly this falling under public safety as safety measures and using American Rescue Plan funds. Were you able to do any research into that?
Yes, and so it's inconclusive research because we've actually gotten some updated, not necessarily regulations, but updated guidance. And so I am not sure that this traffic calming measure relates to the public safety piece that they highlighted. The street lights look like a more appropriate use of that, and violence reduction is specifically called out in the FAQs that we got, but I am not as confident that we would be able to use these funds for that purpose.
Are the cars not violently running through our neighborhoods?
Listen, I don't make the federal rules, but right now I'm not as confident that this is an opportunity. But we did submit it as a question, although I have not heard feedback yet.
So recognize Commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I know ever since I've been here, we talking about it now, 7th year now. In this month, matter of fact, makes 7 years I've been here. And while I've been here, I've heard them talk about, the community talk about speeding through the neighborhoods and things of that nature. And we never found a comprehensive way to approach it. Most notably what's current on the books is that the neighborhood will spend about $35 a year, not the neighbor, but each person who approved this to the tune of 75% of the community, that they approved to add $35 a year to their taxes. And most of us know that most people is not willing to do that. I think there's a comprehensive need in many places in the government to do this. To the administrator's point, if we can't find a way to fund it, Mr. Mayor, you have been advocating ever since you've been here that amended budget. And now we got opportunity to look at that and see what that looks like, to see the community get a direct benefit. Because we know for sure law enforcement can't be all places at all times. Also, we heard our traffic engineer just mentioned last week that in many ways that we are not sanctioned, the sheriff's office is not sanctioned to get in certain streets. They're very limited, probably 10 streets at best out of all the streets in Augusta, Richmond County. And this is another means, a way of giving us ourselves a way to protect the neighborhoods in a very real way. Each commissioner will have the opportunity to take 3 streets each year and take, if you annually put this $420,000 in there, and put 4 speed bumps at no cost to the city, where those neighborhoods are requesting it, and a certain percentage of them want it at no cost to the taxpayers. To me, it just makes good sense. Anytime the taxpayer can get something that they really need, it's a request. We're not going out just putting them down anywhere. And so that's why it's on the agenda, and I hope that we can keep it there, knowing that we have an amended budget process already that can help us get to where we need to be, Mr. Mayor. So thank you very much. And once again, I make that motion to approve.
Who was that second? It was muffled. I didn't.
All right, we've got a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Mr.
Okay,
Mason.
I've got a motion and a second. Still more conversation. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think there's too many unanswered questions about this this idea. I'm not, I have a concern about us doing something then not being able to pay for it later on down the road. I also have a concern about adding more burden to the taxpayers, and some taxpayers may get it, some taxpayers won't get it, but taxpayers are still paying for it. I'll make a substitute motion at this time to deny.
Second.
All right, I've got a substitute motion to deny this and a proper second with the commissioner from the 10th and 3rd. All right, there's still more conversation. All right, I'm going to go to the administrator. Administrator, you want to add something to this conversation?
Yeah, so I think it is definitely clear that the commission is focused on the safety of its residents and public safety in general. And so you made that one of your priorities when you gave us the directives for budget development. In lieu of, and so I'm not telling the commission how to vote or what to do, but I would like to add as a consideration that we are very clear that your directive is you want to add traffic control devices as a part of public safety. While we don't know where to add or remove funds from the budget, I think that those timeframes that you have carved out in the budget calendar, we can bring back a proposal on how we would add those into the budget without you necessarily making a decision for or against today. And I believe we have those earmarked for October 7th. We can look at that and talk about adding it into the actual budget, and then look at the process. So on October 19th, when we deliver the administrator's budget, we'll have some sort of resolution. It may not add up to the $420,000 or that may not be an issue, but we'll be further into the budget process, and I think it would help us provide a resolve to the commission. We'd also know a little bit more about the American Rescue Plan and other funds as well.
I withdraw my motion, Mr. Mayor.
That.
Hold on. All right, Administrator.
Yeah, I just wanted to offer that as a consideration. It is not necessary to influence what you do or not, but you do have that on the table that, you know, there's not a rush on it for you to make a decision yes or no today. You do have a little bit more time if you want to task staff with bringing something more consolidated back. And so I would just offer that.
All right, so let's do this. I've got a superior motion, which would be the substitute from the commission from the 10th.
Mr. Mayor.
If the commissioner would withdraw his substitute.
I will withdraw my substitute at this time on the added
Right.
advice of the administrator.
All right, very well. And now we're back to the main motion. Would the commissioner from the 6th withdraw his motion?
I withdraw my motion as well, Mr. Mayor.
All right, very well. All right, so what we'll do is we will send this back to committee and allow the administrator and the staff time to review this and come back with a approach to implementation. Okay? No, not necessary. Mm-mm. Okay.
That takes us to item 28. That item was requested to be pulled by Commissioner John Clark.
Okay. Well, just hold on. Everybody, just hold on. We have a delegation here to speak. In fact, 2 delegations, and we're going to hear from them as well regarding this matter. So we've got item E and item F that we're going to hear, along with item 28 and
30,
well,
31.
I want to hear 28. The reason it was pulled, and it was adopted by this body. This was here for second reading. So we'll take those items 30 and 31 individually as we did previously. Okay?
We're going to hear, okay? Your item E? Okay.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So,
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Give your name and.
All right. If you will state for the record your name and your address, tell us who you are.
Yes.
Okay?
I am
And
Dr.
you have 5 minutes.
Sorry. My first time. I am Dr. Courtney Young-Wijaya, and I live at 1399 Walton Way in Richmond County. I wanted to thank the mayor and the members of the Augusta Commission for allowing me to speak before you today. I'm a physician and a native Georgian who moved to Augusta to complete my final years of training in pediatric medicine. I am deeply humbled to stand before you all as I advocate for the voices of the children of Augusta. As I speak to you, I encourage you to envision your sons and daughters, your nieces and nephews, your grandsons and your granddaughters. To envision their hopes and dreams for the future, their happy little grins, and that shrieking laughter that fills the air with every breath that they take. Now, that same child going home from daycare, coming home from school with a little runny nose, a cough, a fever, and all of a sudden they're pulling with every single muscle in their body to the point that you can see their ribs pulling between their chest. That is something that I see every single day where I work at the Children's Hospital of Georgia. It could be the common cold, it could be the flu, it could be any virus, it could be even COVID-19. And yet, children are hit the hardest, and that is because their lungs do not develop fully until they are 8 years old. It doesn't even need to be a virus that attacks children. Has anyone in this room had used an inhaler before? Anyone know a family that was burdened with the diagnosis of sudden infant death syndrome? Or even heard of the diagnosis invasive bacterial meningococcemia? That is a fancy way of saying permanent neurological devastation, and these are all associated with secondhand and thirdhand smoke exposure. The reason that this has to do with cigar lounges is because all of these diagnoses are severely exacerbated and are associated with worse outcomes and prolonged hospitalizations. Every single pediatrician across the nation and across the world is trained to ask families about smoke exposure for this very reason. In 2016, there was a study that looked at just one of these many illnesses, respiratory illnesses, bronchiolitis, and it found that there were over 108,000 hospitalizations over 15 years, totaling to $734 million in healthcare costs. That comes from increased critical care usage as well as decreased parental time spent at work. And it begs the question, in what twisted world would we propose an economic amendment in exchange for an equal and possibly greater economic burden? That doesn't even come to mind the teenagers that are affected in terms of risk of addiction. Teenagers and young adults are very easily targeted by the tobacco companies, and most regular smokers and tobacco users start less than 18 years old. These are topics that I focus on every single day at work, and that is beyond the scope of my talk today. Today I come before you regarding voicing my concerns about a proposed amendment to weaken the Augusta smoke-free air law, which went into effect on January 1st, 2019. This proposed amendment would allow for the creation of cigar lounges in Augusta. And just to be clear, there is no safe level of secondhand or third-hand smoke exposure. A single large cigar can contain as much tobacco as a pack of cigarettes. Everyone in those lounges will be exposed to smoke and carry that smoke back to their families and to their children. By passing this law, we are normalizing the spread of an unseen poison. Why burden our children with the weight of our hazy and checkered past when instead we can carry them on our shoulders towards a better future? All children should grow up in a smoke-free environment, and we should do everything we can to encourage smoking cessation. We must stop normalization of all forms of smoking. It is our responsibility as mothers and fathers, uncles and aunts, grandmothers and grandfathers, as members of the Augusta Commission, to vote for the future. I am Dr. Courtney Young-Wijaya, and I advocate for the hopes and the dreams of children of Augusta. I strongly encourage you to reject the proposed amendment to allow cigar lounges in Augusta. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you,
Ms. Kim Thompson.
Dr. Courtney. Thank you. Okay. Madam Clerk, our next petitioner.
Dr. Kim Thompson.
Okay, wonderful. You have 5 minutes, and again, if you'll state for the record your name and address.
Yes, my name is Kim Thompson. I live at 5132 Grand Park. So I just want to say thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the Augusta Commission, for allowing me to speak to you today. I reached out to members of the Public Services Committee about 2 weeks ago prior to your last vote, and I thank those who were courageous enough to vote no. To the others of you, it's not too late. So my name is Dr. Kim Thompson again. I work the greater part of most days each week in Richmond County, working at the Medical College of Georgia in the Department of Family Medicine as an assistant professor and clinical physician. I've held active board certification in the specialty of family medicine for a little over 20 years. I'm currently licensed to practice medicine in Georgia and Kentucky with inactive licensure in the states of California and Illinois. I speak to you today as a physician, a member of the American Heart Association board for the CSRA, and as a mother of 4 boys, ages 4 through 18. As a family physician, I would like you to have an idea of what a typical day is like for me and why the issue before you holds such great importance. Yesterday, I saw patients from about 8 a.m. until just after 6 p.m. with about a 2-minute break. They ranged in ages from 3 days old to 86. 67% of the adults I treated just yesterday had cardiovascular disease, 45% had chronic lung disease, and 34% had suffered strokes. Nearly all of these adults had smoked or were actively smoking tobacco products still. And all of them, 100% of my patients who use tobacco, started experimenting with those products between the ages of 14 and 18 because they were ubiquitous in the communities around them during their youth. These numbers are the greatest of any community I've ever practiced medicine, and they align with the data seen statewide in Georgia. For example, the CSRA boasts greater than 55% of its population with hypertension, compared to the national average of 33%. Augusta, situated in the center of this region, boasts mortality rates among the nation's highest from cardiovascular illness such as hypertension and stroke. We all need to be working together to change the social determinants that have led to these unhealthy communities. Allowing this smoking exemption is not going to help us whatsoever succeed at that work. As a mother, I really applaud you for passing the Augusta Smoke-Free Air Ordinance, which took effect on January 1st in 2019. Thank you. At the same time, I'm a bit aghast that it took so long, considering all we know about the dangers of first, second, and third-hand smoke. As my colleague, Dr. Alice Caldwell, emphasized when she spoke before you a few weeks ago, secondhand smoke comes from exhaled smoke and the smoldering end of a cigarette or cigar when someone is smoking within about 20 feet of you. Third-hand smoke is the residue of smoking fumes that become embedded in upholstery, carpet, walls, car interiors, and clothing, and lingers in the environment longer than secondhand smoke and is toxic. And all forms kill smokers and non-smokers alike. So I implore you to stand on the right side of this issue, on the right side of morality in history. Do not allow this law to be compromised and sidestepped by allowing cigar bars to open in Augusta. Cigars are actually more harmful, even more harmful than cigarettes, even for people who don't intentionally inhale. As reported by the National Cancer Institute in May 2019, cigar smoke contains toxic, cancer-causing chemicals that are harmful to smokers and non-smokers to a degree 3 times greater than cigarettes. These are facts. Please keep our city air clean and healthy for all citizens. Set the right example for my children and for yours. We want our city and our communities to thrive, not just economically. Patrons may have a choice of where they go, but workers do not, and no one should have to choose between a paycheck and their health. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Okay, I believe the commissioner from the second pulled this item. Okay, all right, very well. Okay.
Mr. Clark.
The 10th. Oh, Mr. Clark. Okay. All right. Chair will entertain a motion.
Which item?
Okay, so this item, again, it was on the agenda for the second reading. This was adopted previously by the commission. This was on the agenda for the second reading. It was pulled. Okay. All right, Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve item 28.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve. All right. Chair recognizes Commissioner from the fourth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of weeks ago, we had some good doctors come and speak to us about a lot of the issues as it related to the cigar smoke or smoke period. And also, I said at that time I didn't have enough information, and I thank those who sent me information on this and for and against. But there were some discrepancies, and I don't think the doctor is here, but they mentioned it, according to my meeting notes, that places like Greenville, South Carolina, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana, places like that did not have cigar bars. But in my research, I see that actually they do. Outman Cigars and Martini Bar in Greenville, Boda Pipe and Cigar Lounge in Greenville, Don Juan Cigar Bar in Baton Rouge, and several others, Churchill and so forth. So I was just a little confused on that. But one of the questions I would have, and it's really for I think Mr. Sherman, is he still here, Mr. Mayor?
He's here. He's out to the side. He'll be here.
Okay, good. So I had the opportunity to do my due diligence. I actually went out to the proposed lounge to look at the setup. And I'm trying to figure out, we have public cigar smoking allowed at the Masters, for instance. They're exempted from that, but it's still a spot where you can smoke cigars. We have designated areas even around here where you can go out and smoke cigarettes. At an airport, they don't have a designated spot where you can go and smoke. So, Mr. Sherman, my question to you is there a plan, number one, for the air ventilation system to be placed within this particular cigar bar lounge? Have that been brought to your attention? Is that going to be a stipulation in the process?
Yes, that is actually one of the conditions of the ordinance amendment. It's the last, it's I, cigar bar lounge, must have a filtration system exceeding 98% efficiency with all air within the lounge exhausted directly to the outside by an exhaust fan of sufficient size.
Okay, and like I said, I did go and visit that spot to see exactly what it was like. It was a separate entrance, and if you weren't, it was specifically for cigar smoking at that particular time. I just want to say that there's been a lot of good information given, and I definitely appreciate what you all do. For the two doctors that just came up here, the two ladies that just came up here, not in any way, shape, or form disregarding that. That's important to note. But at the same time, it's very, very difficult for me to have the government get so deep into people's lives and legislating morality. That's a slippery slope right there, because how far do you want the government to come in? And it's a freedom of choice is really what it boils down to, which I've defended this nation over 20 plus years and 37 years with Department of Defense for freedoms. So I'm a little conflicted from that perspective. But I thank you for the information that was brought in, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Mayor, and I am ready to vote.
The second, I'm sorry, that was Mr. Johnson and Mr. Clark.
No. Williams.
Mr. Bobby Williams?
Right.
Okay, we need you all to speak in these mics, please. Okay.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a proper second. Madam Clerk, voting.
That motion carries 7-3, with Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, and Mr. Clark voting no.
Okay, Madam Clerk, at this point, I want to take item 30 and 31 together.
Item 30 and 31. Item 30 is a request for approval so as to provide a definition for a cigar bar lounge. Item 31 is a request to establish a regulatory fee for cigar bar lounge.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from the first.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. The second came from the Commissioner from the second.
Second. Mm-hmm.
All right. Voting.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, we're voting. All right, everybody suspend. All right, Madam Clerk, what's our vote?
You ready to publish
I'm ready
the vote?
to publish the vote.
Okay. 3031 carries with Mr. Franum, Mr. Garrett, and Mr. Clark voting no.
With the adoption of items 30 and 31, they will be coming back for a second reading, okay? The same manner in which this has been brought forward, okay? All right, they'll be coming back for a second reading. But the main motion, the main matter has been adopted and is ready to move forward. All right, we're going to stand at ease for 5 minutes. Director Sherman, if I can see you over here in the corner, and the parliamentarian. All right, the matter number 29, this was before us previously. The commission did not take action on this, and there's been considerable debate about this matter. At this point, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Substitute motion.
All right, I've got a motion and a second to approve. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 8th.
Substitute motion to deny.
Second.
All right, I've got a substitute motion to deny. Commissioner from the 8th and the 4th. We're going to vote on the substitute.
This
Voting.
is a motion to deny.
This is to deny.
I'm pushing it, Ms. Bond.
Yes, sir. I'm waiting. Mr. Clark is out. Yeah. That motion fails 5-4 with Mr. Johnson voting no, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan, and Mr. Clark out. Voting yes, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Mason, Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, and Ms. Scott.
Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 1st. You're
We have a
in,
motion.
you're in the queue. All right. He waves.
I was in the queue to second the motion. I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right. Thank you for your decorum. I appreciate that. We're now on the main motion, which is to approve this request. Voting.
That motion fails 4-6 with Mr. Johnson voting yes, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan. Voting no, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Mason, Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Scott, and Mr. Clark.
Madam Clerk, we're going to call item number 9 back.
Mayor, I'm not sure.
All right,
that-
everybody just hold on. I have a, I got crutches, but I still know how to drive. Still know how to drive. All right, we've got item number 9. We suspended action on that. That's being brought before us, again, from the planning department. We've had a conversation. We're ready to take action on that matter. To those individuals, and again, I'll come back to it, the item number 29 that was just voted on, I believe it's appropriate for the planning director to tell them what their posture is now that we voted on this matter, can give some guidance and direction, which is why I called you up as well. And that's regarding item 29,
Okay.
what their next steps are.
So, is the applicant here?
They are.
Yes. So your application for rezoning was denied, and at this time, we will get in touch with you first thing tomorrow morning and let you know what the next steps would be for you. Those that are in opposition, pardon me?
There's no action.
Chair recognizes the parliamentarian. Can this matter be brought back before the commission?
No, the motion to deny failed. The motion to approve failed.
Yes, in that no action has been taken, the petitioner has a right to be heard without delay.
There were 6 votes against.
To,
So they have
no.
6 months to come back.
No, she said it wasn't.
Both of those motions failed. The substitute motion to deny failed.
Failed.
The motion to approve
Failed.
failed.
Okay, fine.
That's what I said.
There were 6 votes.
The advice stands.
Okay. All right. And that is the petitioner can, at any point, bring this matter back.
Yes.
Okay. The parliamentarian has ruled.
If both matters fail.
That is correct.
There were, Mayor,
Both matters failed. The parliamentarian has ruled, which means no action was taken. If you'd like to reconsider, that'd be-
motion to reconsider.
There we go, second.
all right. Again, reconsidering its previous action. And they did not take any action on this matter. All right? Madam Clerk, that's the motion that's before us, to reconsider.
Yes, sir.
Voting.
And this is the vote on to reconsider.
To reconsider.
To reconsider.
No, just to reconsider.
Just to reconsider your previous action.
Yes.
I would encourage everybody to push the button number 1. I'll let you decipher what that is.
I can't believe this.
Welcome to our world.
That motion carries 9-1. With Mr. Hassan voting no.
Motion to deny.
All right, hold on. Madam Clerk, continue reading.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Garrett is to deny, and the second was Mr. Clark.
Yes.
Mr. Clark. Okay.
Well, he's going to make a substitute motion. Chair recognizes Commissioner, the Mayor Pro Tem for State's Inquiry.
Second.
Okay. I've got a substitute motion to approve. And that is to approve item number 29, voting.
That motion fails 4-6. With Mr. Johnson voting yes, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Ben Hassan. Voting no, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Mason, Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Scott, and Mr. Clark.
All right, Madam Clerk, we're back to the motion from the Commissioner from the 8th, and that is a motion to deny this petition. All right. Voting.
That motion carries 6-4. With Ms. McKnight voting yes, Mr. Mason, Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Scott, and Mr. Clark. Voting no, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Bobby Williams, and Mr. Hassan.
Okay, item number 29 has been denied. Madam Clerk, let's go to item number 9. If you were here in attendance regarding item number 29, that matter has been denied. All right, Director Sherman, if you'll just stand at ease for a few minutes, give folks an opportunity to clear the chamber.
It's a shame our society always talk this mess about how and what we need to do for our children. And I guess it's true as long as it don't bother me.
All right, I'm going to ask everyone if you would take your conversations outside the chamber. If you'll take your conversations outside the chamber. Still got a lot of business in front of us. Take your conversations outside the chamber. Lots of business in front of us. All right, Madam Clerk, we've got item number 9 back before us.
Yes, sir. That's a request for rezoning from a zone R1 one family residential to a zone R1C one family residential, affecting property at 3911 Harsham Hill Road.
All right, Chair recognizes Director Sherman.
Okay, before you, the Planning Commission is recommending that the application be approved. I met with Mr. and Mrs. Hutchinson and the applicant. The Hutchinsons' concerns were, would there be sanitary sewer accessible from their property? And at this point, we do not know. The applicant has not had an engineered plan drawn up yet. So once that is drawn up, then we'll know if the sewer gets close to their property and they can tie in. There were 3 other issues: access to the back of their property. Now they're accessing the property from Holcomb Road, actually going on to the applicant's property to get to theirs. That will not be available once he develops that property, but the applicant will work with them to remove trees. As he's removing trees, clear cutting his land to be developed, he would remove 1 or 2 from their property if that would help them. They will get together on that once the plan is drawn up. Would there be fencing along their rear property line? The applicant is not intending to put up any fencing along the rear of his development. And access so that's everything that was discussed. The neighbors are not in opposition to the zoning request.
All right, very well. I have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right. Commissioner from the 6th? Okay, thank you, sir. Voting.
That motion carries unanimously.
Okay. On item number 32.
Item 32, received detailed presentation from the administrator and staff regarding the operations of city-owned recreation facilities by non-governmental agencies as approved by the Public Services Committee on September 14th.
Administrator Donald.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Commission. So for this item, Director McDowell is prepared to give a detailed presentation, but I did just want to highlight what we'll be providing in response to the Commission today. First, I think it was pretty evident that the Commission has requested that staff take a higher level of accountability and really be responsible for the oversight of these 3 facilities that are in question. And so because of that, the staff recommendation, although we'll be showing you 3 options that you can choose from, the staff piece would always be whenever you are tasking us with being fully accountable, we would need to have full oversight. And so that would be the staff recommendation, that Parks and Recreation bring those items internal as discussed last week. But because there was some discussion on it, we did have 2 alternatives that we included in the presentation. The first is you could pilot Jamestown being the first piece that we bring internal, where staff would provide that direct oversight. And then I have already provided you with the MOUs where we would add some added accountability, kind of keeping the status quo, but adding teeth to the agreement. So again, the staff recommendation is to bring it internal, but we also wanted to present those other alternatives for you. So I know that the presentation is in your books, but I believe we're trying to get it on the screen now. While they get that up in your binders under the number 32, the presentation is already included. And again, the staff recommendation, I just want to make that clear because y'all asked for that clarity, is to bring those services internal. But we wanted to provide, since there was not a full consensus, we provided those other 2 options, as well as what is not in your books are the MOUs. Are they included, Madam Clerk? I didn't look. I'm sorry, the MOUs are in your book as well, but I also distributed those electronically earlier in the week. So you have all of those materials, the staff recommendation, as well as any insights that you might need. I'll defer to Director McDowell now that our technology is in line.
All right, Director McDowell, you can proceed. Again, under tab 32 is the requisite information that is being considered. Director McDowell.
Okay, good afternoon. I'm hoping that you all have a copy of the presentation in your package, and so we'll kind of work through that. I think the administrator has already done due diligence in terms of introducing to you where we are based on the last conversation that we had before this body. So option 1 talks about how we are currently positioned in terms of managing our 3 facilities. That's part of the discussion today. So W.T. Johnson, Eastview, and Jamestown are all being managed currently by NGOs. NGOs are responsible for programming those facilities, as well as any type of rentals of those facilities. Those NGOs are responsible for those, and so they maintain their 501(c)(3) status in order to be a partner with Parks and Recreation. They also have to maintain inventory controls and that sort of stuff. So currently, right now, Parks and Recreation as a department through our budget, we're responsible for all the utilities, we're responsible for all the maintenance, any type of capital improvements to those facilities. Parks and Recreation and the city through our budget, we still have to maintain those level of services for those particular community centers. This is currently an example, and we utilize Jamestown Community Center as an example. Currently, we have 1 recreation specialist there. Let me speak from this. This is how we would perceive it to be if you brought it back in-house for us to manage. So right now at Jamestown, we do have 1 recreation specialist there. That's due to the fact that the commission elected, I guess, a year and a half ago, for the Commissioner Sias not to manage that facility, so we had to staff it. We staff it currently with a part-timer that is currently housed at our Robert Howard Community Center, but we do some afternoon, after-hours programming there from a program standpoint whenever we have a group that want to utilize that facility, even if someone wants to utilize it from a rental standpoint. But basically, it takes one recreational specialist to kind of facilitate programming there. Those are the staffing hours that we usually manage those particular facilities. Those are staffing hours we would continue to manage if we brought those back under our purview. So there won't be necessarily any additional costs because we already have those resources allocated for programming of those facilities. And from a staffing standpoint, from a material standpoint, we're able to absorb any of that cost currently under that same model. Option 3 would be if this body decides to go back out for RFP. What an RFP does is we've been approached by several different groups, different entities that would like to manage our facility, would like to do some programming in our facility. This would give us an organized process by which we could entertain any of those proposals. We can go through a procurement process where we could see if not only just the current group that particularly manage those facilities, but if there's any other pursuers that would like to manage those facilities and they meet our criteria in terms of 501(c)(3) status and have the appropriate staffing to meet those demands, then that's a third option for us to consider as well, because we have had some other groups to express some interest in partnering with Parks and Recreation to manage those facilities. So that's a third option.
Director, I think you skipped number 2 by mistake. I think you went directly to the example without showing them what the operation by Parks and Rec looks like.
I think that's the slide right there.
No.
It's back to front, so with no page number on it. Maybe this right here.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this just outlined our current structure, meaning we have a deputy director over special events as well as programming, and then we have a program manager that we've currently hired to focus in on programming all our facilities, all our athletics in terms of youth and senior programs. And then, of course, we'll have a recreation specialist that we can put inside of these facilities to kind of manage any type of program or any type of partnerships that we will have at those facilities, as well as any type of rentals that will take place in those particular facilities. Again, all that will fall under us operating it, being able to manage it. We talked a lot about accountability and transparency. I think this gives us the best option in terms of having that measure or that level of control and consistency throughout all of our facilities. Which takes us basically to the recommendation. And again, I say this, we're prepared to go whichever direction that this body would like to see us go, because we have MOUs that we've worked on, that we've tried to put some teeth to, and strengthen those MOUs compared to what we've had previously. But again, it is probably in the best interest from a managerial standpoint, from an accountability standpoint, from a transparency standpoint, is to bring those areas back under the purview of Parks and Recreation. Let us be responsible for managing those facilities. Let us be responsible for any type of programming in those facilities. And that does not preclude us from our ability, or doesn't hamper us from continuing to partner and have relationships with these different groups. It just gives us a better way of having some sort of control and transparency and accountability as we look forward and moving forward in a different direction in terms of how do we go about being more accountable to our citizens.
Mr. Franklin, I'm gonna go to Mr. Mason first, since it was his item. Mr. Mason?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you, Mr. Administrator and Mr. McDowell. Clearly, I hope that we're going to go for transparency and accountability fully, and so I'm going to make a motion that we accept option 2, operation by Parks and Recreation. I'll put that in form of a motion.
Hang on a second, man. Thank you. Mr. Mason has offered a motion. Do we have a second?
Have a substitute
motion.
motion.
You got a motion and a second, but we still have conversation. Mr. Franklin?
Thank you. My first question is, have we reached out to any of the members of these three facilities? I know one's kind of not.
We've had these conversations for the last 2.5 years. We've met with these different groups to have these discussions. As you recall, commissioners, I guess back in 1819, that conversation came about the MOUs. And at that particular time, my predecessor were working on these MOUs as a stopgap measure for some of the things that were taking place with some of our partners. As that conversation continued to build and materialize, we got to the point where we saw opportunity for us to better manage those facilities, given the current resources that we have and given the current resources that we're responsible for in terms of managing those facilities already. The only difference is we do not control any type of revenue that those particular facilities generate. Outside of that, we're pretty much doing most of the managing anyways.
Yeah, and that was where I was going next. Like, my concern is that we didn't have anywhere in here on some of the operational recommendations of a new, like, revenue split where the city gets some of their revenue. They have to show the books. Like, I mean, if we're paying for everything, we ought to be getting a cut of the pie. And I think that's where, like, I'm not ready to take on all 3 of these at all, and I won't vote for that today. But I do think that we need to add some form of revenue split for the city, because if we're taking care of everything and they're taking all this money in, then there's got to be a pretty penny in these facilities. And
well, historically, that has been part of the agreements. It just hasn't been enforced. And some of the rationale with that is when those particular groups program, they utilize those resources to do that programming, which leaves no share or no funds turned over to the city. So it becomes the ability to kind of police that.
But they don't have to show any kind of bank records, bank statements, audits, anything like that. And see, that's where I'm not okay with. My other piece is like the MOU. I think we've done a great job on it for those that have worked on it. I think the insurance requirements are the only concern I have. Is like, is it too high? For an NGO? And then I guess for me, like right now, I feel like we should start with Jamestown and just see where it goes working with that one, because the other 2, especially we haven't had any conversations with them. We don't know all their program. We know that, some of the things that Beulah Grove Baptist is doing and W.T. Johnson are very much awesome for the community. And for us to just go and pull it without having deeper conversations with each of these entities is a little concerning for me. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'll wait for Commissioner Johnson on his motion to support that. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, or Mayor.
All right, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I think that I think this is really good conversation, especially talking about transparency. And when the email was sent out with the proposed MOU, I celebrated, because I think that we're in a position now to we're having a good conversation about transparency. If we want to make sure that the centers are running quality programming, that draft MOU addresses that. If we want to make sure that there's adequate staffing to do adequate programming, this MOU addresses that. I think also the reporting mechanism, say that this community center or these neighborhoods, have specifics that they agree to, and they come back before the commission in a year, or come back before Parks and Recs in a year to review what they've actually done. I think that's great reporting mechanisms. That's great transparency mechanisms. You mentioned that in past times that there had been revenue splits, but we just hadn't enforced it. But I am confident in your leadership that you will enforce that. So I think at this point, if we want to make sure that we are working with NGOs, we need to make sure that we're going to work with NGOs. we're talking about Jamestown. We know that Jamestown is the elephant in the room. I would support starting with Jamestown and then putting 30901 at WT and the Eastview Community Center under these MOUs, because they do have quality programming. They have been accountable to their programming. They have neighborhood association meetings there. They're doing after-school programs for kids. This isn't hearsay. This is stuff that I've seen firsthand. And so I will make a substitute motion to approve option number 3, starting with Jamestown, and then we bring the other community centers under the MOU.
I second the substitute.
All right, we have a substitute motion and a second. However, Mr. Hassan.
Yes, sir. If we're going to do this, if you're going to, I think Mr. Commissioner Mason has a different motion to bring them all in, and I second that, which is what I wholeheartedly support, bringing them all in. At the same time, I know this was something that the director early on, over a year or so ago, was considering that's the best direction for him, because this body has a right to do something different. We at the end of the day sets the standards here. But however,
yes,
why not let each one of these, if you're going to consider based on your motion, Commissioner, substitute motion, let them all come and improve themselves and not allocate it automatically to a facility. Because if you say Eastview, well, Eastview ought to come and improve itself in terms of what it's going to do, in terms of to live up under the MOU. If Beulah Grove is going to do that, let it come and improve itself. Keep the MOU available, but let an institution, 501c3, come and improve what they're going to do. I led the charge over a couple of years ago now to bring Beulah Grove in, set with them, anything. Be frank with you, I don't know of a program they have over there right now. I know the Sam Lilly Foundation is in there doing something, but from a programming from Beulah Grove, I don't know of one that's in there today. And so if you want to do that, bring them in, each one of them. If you want to make the MOU viable, remove targeting one and let everybody come in, let those 3 come in and make their presentation. It don't have to be before us. It can be before the director and his staff, and not choose who's going to do it, and we automatically award them up under the MOU. Let them come and improve themselves. That's what I would encourage us to do per that substitute motion, per bringing them all back in-house.
All right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm gonna go down to the commissioner from the first, but I want to add this. One, I want to thank the administrator and his team for putting this presentation together. Director McDowell. I generally try not to wade into these matters, but I think it's appropriate to wade into this conversation because I want you to think globally about this. One of the challenges that we have in our community is this notion of bifurcation, of where we bifurcate things out to other groups holistically to do what government could be doing, and there are times where we're not the best at it. But even in that, we never establish what our expectations and our goals are. And then we have conversations like this that, for one reason or another, we talk around why we're having it. And the reality of it is we're having a conversation about Jamestown because of what has most recently transpired. At no point in time have we heard, outside of the issues associated with the former commissioner or the suspended commissioner, about their ability to program and meet the needs of the children in that community. We're not even talking about that. What we've consistently heard is that they have run programs, summer programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have heard it. And now, in this presentation, we've got a current mode of operation for these centers. The commissioner from the 6th raised a very valid concern and point. But what we are being told is the previous MOU for W.T. Johnson, which we sat in this body and adopted and approved, the church members came down here. The commissioner from the 6th had questions even then. The MOU for Eastview, entered into in 2001, never been updated. And the reality of it is we should be having broad conversations about how we deliver programming in the city of Augusta at any and all of our community centers, not just these three. We've also got relationships with Arsenal, the soccer. What are the expectations of that? Are we growing soccer talent that one day they will in fact be Olympians? Because that's like the fastest growing sport in the world, right? The World Cup games are going to be in Birmingham, Alabama. So my challenge to this body is, let's not couch these conversations. Let's deal with the real heart of the matter from a programming standpoint about how we deliver programming at any and all of our community centers, whether it's Eastview, WT Johnson, and or Jamestown, because whatever shortfalls are there, I submit to you, they are no different than the shortfalls that are at Bernie Ward. They're no different than any of the shortfalls at any of the other community centers and parks in terms of our ability to deliver programming. And so I want to challenge this body with taking a more holistic and global approach about what do we want. When's the last time we had our Parks and Recreation folks competing in the Georgia games in a significant way of where we're developing winning talent? When's the last time we had a volleyball program in the city of Augusta? And I'll never hear about any of that. But I want to challenge this body. Let's not couch this around a singular individual or community center where, to my knowledge, there's not been a single conversation about their ability to deliver programming in Jamestown and or one of the more efficiently run ones, independent of persons or personalities, because we get bogged down in that all too often. But that's the challenge. Commissioner from the first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll echo your sentiments, but I wanted to make sure that I updated my motion, make it more clear, because I did misspeak in that. I have a question before I do so, though. I mistakenly said 3. I did not mean 3 by any means at all. But my question about number 2 is that operations by Parks and Recreation. So option number 2 would bring all of the NGOs back under the Parks and Recreation Department, period, correct?
So when you say all, I'm hoping you're pertaining to the presentation. Right. So the 3 facilities that we have currently, correct?
They would come all together. Okay, so I want to adjust my substitute motion, Mr. Mayor. My substitute motion would simply be just to bring Jamestown back under the auspices of the Parks and Recreation Department, and then have the other 2 centers enter into an updated MOU.
Second.
All right, we've got a substitute motion. I want to make sure everybody's clear on what that substitute is. And that substitute motion is to bring Jamestown back under the purview and governance of Recs and Parks, totally. And the other 2, Eastview and WT, that they work towards an updated MOU. That's real time. That's the substitute.
That's
okay?
the substitute.
All right, and it has a proper second. All right, we're going to go to the commissioner from the 4th.
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Then the 10th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to respectfully disagree with your assessment of this being simply about Jamestown. That's not my focus, and I brought it to the floor. That was not only my focus, so I don't want that put out there on my back that it was about Jamestown. Now, if you feel that way, then that's fine, but I don't. And let me also say that we have an administrator who I said before gets paid handsomely, and we have a Parks and Rec director who have made the preferred recommendation to bring it back in-house. And this is what we pay them to do. I'm not a Parks and Rec guy. I'm not an administrator. This is what we pay them to do. And so I would caution us very closely as I look at option number 2, and I want to dispel the myth or the statements that have been made about there's been no discussion with these groups. Nothing could be further than the truth. There has been discussion. I think you heard Parks and Rec say there's been discussion for a number of years. It's been going on. It's time for us to get our act together. We've had I was sitting on the sidelines, but I watched when Commissioner Hassan questioned some of the MOUs and the programming that we have out there. And so we're not in a position, I'm not stating that there would be no communication and no organization or partnerships with the NGOs. Quite the opposite. It's a matter of who's going to be accountable on the transparency and accountability and our funds. That's important. I heard the administrator talk about a flat budget. Well, I can guarantee you, you can add some more to that budget with some of the funds that have been out there that we haven't received, that we have not received, period. And it's a lot of it. And so I'm willing to do whatever the body wants to do, but I just want to dispel the fact that I want effective operations in our community centers. I want to uplift our community with appropriate programs. And I think that we have the ability and the staff that can make that happen. If we don't, maybe we need to get rid of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner from the 4th, and I think you misread that commentary. I think all of us agree with not only your concern of which you raised and brought this issue forward. We all agree with that. The challenge is not to thrust this on you as it relates to Jamestown. This is not a new conversation. We've been talking about it. The dean of the commission and now the provost of the commission, as I understand it, have consistently been raising these issues as well. So we all agree on that. We're all on the same page and same team. The challenge that the commissioner from the 1st has raised, and certainly the one that I am challenging us as a body, is let's be holistic in how we program at our facilities. Recreation and parks can be the lifeblood of our city, and we need to do it the right way and consider all of them. We've got a substitute motion and a second. I'm going to go to the distinguished lady.
And before I need to address the substitute when you finish.
Okay. I was going to go to the distinguished lady from the 9th. Okay. All right. I got him. Yep. The chair recognizes the commissioner from the 10th who was in the queue and he has waived. Okay. And I'm going to go to the commissioner from the 8th.
This is going to be real quick. I just have one question for Director McDowell. These facilities, we've made commentary around the funds that they bring in through their programming. Do you think, doing the research that you have into this item, do you think these facilities can generate enough funding to basically pay to or fund these facilities themselves?
No, I don't think that's ever been the intent in terms of Parks and Recreation as a department and just by the service that we provide to the community. But what I can say, it would definitely contribute more than what's being contributed now. But I don't think there will ever be sufficient funding in terms of revenue that we generate because we're in the business of providing a service and the quality of life to the citizenry. So that comes at a cost to the government, not necessarily where we either break even or even make a profit from.
All right. Thanks, sir.
Chair recognizes Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Just for clarification, when Commissioner Johnson amended his motion, originally Commissioner Scott seconded that, and when he amended it, I didn't know if she was staying with that. I heard another second to the amended motion. And I just need to clarify.
I believe she's fine with the amended motion.
I beg your pardon? I'm fine with the amended motion.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
All right. That was a substitute motion, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Madam Clerk. We are going to vote on that substitute as amended, and then we'll come back to the, well, we'll see what happens first. All right, maybe not. All right, voting. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 2nd. State your inquiry.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I have Madam Clerk read the substitute motion. On me.
He amended the motion to bring in Jamestown back into the Augusta Recreation purview and to enter into amended MOUs with W.T. Johnson and in Eastview. Yes, sir. Hey, what you say? What did he say?
Don't do it.
Was it a PG? Was it PG? That's all I need to know.
You can see that face. I did. I did. I did.
Okay. That motion carries 6-4 with Mr. Johnson voting yes, Ms. McKnight, Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, Ms. Scott, and Mr. Clark. Voting no, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Alvin Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, and Mr. Ben Hassan.
All right, we got a couple of things. Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem for a question.
Mr. McDowell, we're talking about working with the MOUs for East Augusta and Johnson, correct?
Correct.
With this motion. So one of the things that I know several commissioners are concerned about is the money factor. Are we going to have a situation where we stipulate how money is to be spent, how money is to be gathered? If there's going to be a portion that comes to, and you don't have to answer this right now, but think about it. Is there a portion that comes to the county itself as opposed to what they were doing before, that they kept 100% of it? I think that they should contribute towards their maintenance and so forth, that they should contribute towards their maintenance, because you're saying right now that we're doing 100% of the maintenance, correct?
Right.
All right, so those are some things I think we need to think about when we think about the MOU.
Right. I would just add, I think that's an even broader discussion from a financing standpoint, not just the NGOs, because there's really not a true mechanism for us to track. It's solely on the honor system in terms of what we can require from the NGOs. Of course, at the end of the year, we can ask for a statement.
Well,
historically, we haven't done that, but.
Well, there's a better way. I mean, we could talk offline about it, but there's a better way to do it, and I think we need to do it. So we can talk about it, and you can go to the administrator. We could talk about how we can track and or allow events where monies and so forth are paid. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chair recognizes Administrator Donald.
I would just say, I think you've just taken action. Jamestown, we're kind of managing that now, so there's really no impact. The
Right.
recommendation that was provided last week in committee was that we complete this year, especially with folks having the 501c3 status, so that they can complete their books. Of course, we'll be more involved, et cetera, but then we would bring back through the committee cycle these updated MOUs, which I think would answer some of those questions that we wouldn't be able to answer right now on the floor. So our understanding of the action from the commission is that now in Jamestown, we step up the programming and our management and all of those activities. And then from now until the end of this year, we work through the MOU process and bring it back to the commission. So I think through that process, we will resolve those questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Administrator Donald. Okay. It's 5:16. The sun is going down. And Madam Clerk, I think we have just a few more items of business in front of us, all on engineering
Yes, sir.
services. The commissioner from the 6th, he's got like 2 questions. All right. Engineering services, items 30.
Mr. Mayor, can you take these as companion items?
Only if you're comfortable with that.
I'm comfortable with it. I'm very comfortable with it.
All right, very good. Item 33, 34, and 35 as companion items. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Then you can come back to me so I can talk to myself.
I think.
All right, Madam Clerk.
Administrator. How are you going to do it?
Each one of them together.
You want Director Strayer?
We got him.
Okay,
He's on
Mr.
deck, ready to go.
Administrator, Director Strayer.
All right, Madam Clerk, are you going to read it for the record?
Yes. Item 33 is to consider a request from Orion Waste Solution for contract assignment change. Item number, no recommendation from the Engineering Services Committee. Item number 34 is to reconsider the Commission's September 7th, 2021 approval of a request for facility construction credits and discussion of the remaining 2-year contract extension with Orion and Metropolitan Waste. Item number 35 is to approve a request from Waste Management, A1 Sanitation for a 2-year contract extension in accordance with the approval of Orion's 2-year contract extension.
Mr. Mayor, can I say something, please, first?
Well, I'm going to come to you.
Okay.
All right. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, I think you have to separate 35 out because there's going in a different direction, because if 34 stands, then 35, if you vote yes on those other two, because I'm trying to rescind it, and then you end up approving this one over here, and so they go in a different direction. So 35 is a standalone from those two, and I apologize for that. Now, let me
Okay.
while I
All
put them on
right,
the
so
agenda.
everybody just hold for a minute. All right, it's a different contractor, so we're only, for the record, 33 and 34 will be taken as companion, 35 will be voted on separately.
Yes, sir.
All right, we have cleared that up.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
continue.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. And to my colleagues, the reason I'm putting up 34 back on here in particular is because when we approved this a couple of weeks ago, the only thing I thought was a part of that was given an additional 2-year extension. Didn't realize was the faculty construction credits was with that, which is going to be generating a windfall back to the waste hauler provider. And so that was never the intent. But however, if you mentioned remember looking at our books, our director was recommending that we deny the whole thing. But I was pleased with trying to cherry pick it and just try to give the 2-year contract. So I think we're at a point now to try to let the director give us an insight of what are the financial repercussions if we take on all of it. I think some serious financial repercussions. I think it's important that we know those before we approve it moving forward. Even I think if we do just a 2-year extension at this particular time, there may be some financial repercussions come with that as well. So not only will it go to Orion, but 9 times out of 10 will possibly go to the other vendor for number 35 as well. So Mr. Mayor, I'd like to see him address these issues.
Okay. All right. Our director.
That was my cue. Thank you. I appreciate the discussion. Just to give you a heads up on what I was prepared to say last time, Orion made a request for additional money, and that was the start of all this for COVID relief. And this was their original request of $229,000. And when we looked at it, we recommended they potentially be covered for the cost of these 766 trips to the landfill, but we were not really in favor of the additional labor unless you figured out a way to pay everybody for that. So at maximum, we said you should give them $95,000, and we did not agree with extending the contract, and I'll cover that in just a second. So here's what's happened since 2014, since the contract was assigned. They have not been left out in the cold, so to speak. They've had 21.7% increase in their rate, which is $1.24 million. Waste Management has had a similar increase over time. Also, they had bid at a set price for fuel for the life of the contract. That diesel fuel dropped below compressed natural gas, and we lowered the rate, but remember, they had bid this amount throughout the life of the contract. This is what they anticipated having to pay, and we reduced that to the current price of diesel, which saved them $380,000 a year, which was what they had bid in the contract. And then we also, because we've forgiven the liquidated damages due to COVID, we also forgave the normal amount that they were incurring every month, which added up to about $100,000 in savings. And then regarding a contract extension, these are some of the issues that came up last week when we discussed this, that we are potentially losing the CNG fueling credit of $55,000 a month, We have questions about the carts being maintained and replaced on a cycle, and we want them to monitor their performance better, and we want to make sure they bring the tonnage to us. We might want to talk about recycling service, and we definitely want to make some improvements and clarifications in the language. So all these are issues that have come up in the last couple of discussions, and these are things that we should, in my opinion, look at when we consider any contract negotiation or extension.
Chair recognizes Commissioner from 6.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so with that there, Mr. Mayor, it looks like this has a huge windfall in money that's already been saved in the life of this contract, as the director has brought to our attention. And so for item number 34 in particular, I'd like the commission to vote to reconsider the action that we took on September the 7th. And that is the contract, the 2 years contract extension, as well as the faculty construction credit, because this is a significant amount of money that we were just not aware of. And at this particular time, I also understand he's trying to figure out where some of this money we got to pay off, where is it going to come from? Now, you're not looking at just one side of this. There's another side, because you have another vendor that's going to line up at your front door asking for pretty much the same thing. So at this particular time, no harm, no foul. For number 34, I make a motion to reconsider the actions that we took on September the 7th.
Okay, so let's
is that to
suspend for
rescind
just a minute. Let's get some clarification on this. The matters in front of us are 33 and 34.
They're going in different directions too, Mr. Mayor, when
Right,
you
I
look at
understand,
them.
but we're only debating those two right now.
Let's devote 34,
Okay?
because they go in different directions as well.
All right, so you're wanting to look at these individually now?
Yeah, that's what it meant. I thought I could put them together, but I got to unravel them.
Okay.
He's comfortable with unraveling.
All right, so
Well,
the matter,
look, I've heard some, so that's what I do
the
best.
matter before us is only item 33. This is a
34.
consideration. Well, we need to deal with 33 and dispose of that. All right, let's take them in
Well,
order.
let me
Consider
address
request
33
from
then.
Orion for contract assignment change. That's a separate matter.
Well,
All right?
I deal with that too then.
All right, so let's just deal with that matter first.
Okay.
We're taking them individually. Item 33. All right, what's our posture?
Let me make, Mr. Mayor, on that, I recommend denying that at this point for number one. I don't know what it is internal with the director, but I know there's some outstanding issues with, in terms of the sub finally getting its vehicle titles in their hand. Those things have not been done at this point. I think as of September of this, but they paid their final fee, and I don't want to move forward until our sub get their documents in their hand.
All right, so what I'm hearing the commissioner from the 6 say is that these issues are not ready for prime time.
They're
That's
not.
what I'm hearing.
They're not.
That these issues are not ready for prime time, but yet we're debating them now.
But
So-
they're on the agenda, yes.
right,
I didn't
so-
put that on the agenda.
All right, I'm going to go to the chairman of Engineering Services, and I want to hear from the chairman, because what I'm hearing right now is that we ought to send these back to committee. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, you're hearing that from some. I think the action that was taken at the last meeting is probably the best way forward, because what this does, if we take this out, it directly affects the subcontractors that work for Orion and Waste Management, and I think that's something that we need to consider as well.
Listen, I won't worry about the subs on this one. 33 I do, the rest I don't.
Okay.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned again that we're debating these matters after they've gone through the committee cycle to full commission, where we said they were ready for prime time, and now they're not ready for prime time. Mr. Administrator, would it be prudent for us to table these to the next full commission meeting? Is there an urgency where which we have to do something today, or can we table these to the next full commission meeting?
So I think my recommendation as staff would be to look at all of those individually, because the answer would be different for each one. I think that the 2-year extension, if the commission would like to reconsider it, I think that you could, because you were not up at a time to reconsider the contract. It had not expired yet. For the other piece, which was the contract assignment change, I think you could potentially be creating, I'll defer to legal, but I think you could be creating a hardship for their business continuity. And so that I believe would be time sensitive. And then the third matter, which was waste management, I think the way you have procured these services, the services between the two, I'm not sure you want to separate your actions on those two. So my advisement would be look at each of those individually. The contract assignment does seem to appear to be time sensitive, while the other two, if it is the will of the commission to continue to review, I think you have time to do that.
All right, I'm going to go to the Engineering Services Chairman. Item 34 and 35, they both are germane, with one exception being the notion of credits. Would it be prudent for us to, again,
well, before we take action, I think it would be prudent for us to hear from our contractor who is here ready to speak, from Orion.
Contractors don't work for the city, Mr. Mayor.
I understand.
Not in that regard.
I understand.
The director take care of our interests.
The matter that is before us, again, we've got item 33, which is a consideration for a request for contract assignment change with no recommendation from Engineering Services. The commissioner from the 6th, who has raised this issue, clearly has a level of unreadiness, who's also a member of Engineering Services. In fact, I think you're vice chair. So to that end, I'm going to give leverage to the chairman around wanting to hear. But what I've heard from the administrator is 33 could, in fact, be somewhat of a time sensitive. And the question before us from a legal standpoint, and I'm going to defer to the parliamentarians, is if we, again, have any issues related to that, and we can take action on that, and then we'll come back to 34 and 35.
Okay.
Chair recognizes parliamentarian.
Yes, sir.
The question before us is
Welcome back.
regarding the timeliness around the contract assignment change. Is there any issues with us taking action on this and or suspending action at this point?
No one has had that discussion with legal as to any time sensitivity toward the assignment.
Okay. All right, Director, and I can't remember your last name.
Stayer.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
No, I don't know if it's time sensitive or not, but I would defer to the committee chair and Orion.
All right. I'm going to hear from Orion at this point. Is this the time sensitive matter?
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Yes, it is a time-sensitive matter.
All right.
Mr. Mayor.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to ask for that.
Okay.
Can you speak to the time sensitive nature of this matter?
Yes, this entire process is supposed to take effect in the next 3 weeks. We're hoping that it'll take effect by the 30th of this month. If there could be a delay, as legal knows, of maybe a couple of days, but yes, it is a time-sensitive matter. And knowing that the commission is not meet full until the second week of September, that would put us after the date. Of October, sorry.
All right. The caption reads, consider request from Orion for contract assignment change. All right.
And
Attorney.
Mayor, if I may.
Hold on.
Frankly, and my apologies, but I could not understand what he was saying, or I could not follow the explanation of why this matter is time sensitive to Orion. I don't know if it is or not. None of the materials that was submitted still explains the sensitivity of time of what will be lost if it's not done.
There's a close date in a few days.
All right. Orion, if you'll approach again.
Yes, sir.
This is your issue.
Can he speak in the microphone?
Yeah, sorry about that. I'll take the mask off. Thank you. Yeah, the expected close date is either going to be the September 30th, or it could possibly be the following Friday, which would put us in the first week of October. And this is one of the conditions of our of the entire process.
Parliamentarian.
Yes, I'm in communication with an attorney who has been assigned to the environmental services for many, many years. And information that I'm receiving is that until this moment, no one has ever mentioned its time sensitivity. However, and I do not know, Commissioner Son mentioned, and that's the first I've heard of that as well, of any effect of assigning this matter at this time.
Motion to approve.
I'm still on the board.
Second.
I got you.
Go ahead and make a substitute motion,
All
Mr.
right.
Mayor.
Hold on.
Okay, that was Mr.
All right,
Garrett.
Chair recognizes the Mayor Pro Tem. State your inquiry.
Yes, sir. I understand we're talking about time sensitivity and what have you. I can't even fathom why we stood Director Stair up here, and he's telling us that they've already gotten $100,000 in liquidation, whatever we gave back to them. That's a possibility that we're going to give them another $1.4 million, and then another $55,000 per week or month.
That's not this item.
Well, it all goes together.
No,
So-
they're separate. They're separate items.
But
The
it
matter,
all goes together.
Mayor Pro Tem,
And we've been
the-
good to these folks. And it doesn't
Separate
seem like
issues.
they're taking into consideration what we're trying to do here in this city, and that is make good decisions for Augusta folks.
What item?
All right, I appreciate that.
What item are we
All right,
Second on that.
everybody suspend. Everybody just suspend. Okay? All right. Everybody suspend. The matter that is before us, we've separated them. We're dealing with them individually. The matter that's before us is on your screens, and that's a request for a contract assignment change. As I understand it, this deals with the matter of not only a name change, but who the vendor becomes. Is that not true? Okay, if you'll come back to the microphone. All right?
Yes,
Which-
sir, Mayor. It
this
seems
is
like
a-
there's an awful lot of different items here in this thing, and I don't know if we all have the time to kind of
I don't. I only
differentiate
want to
out.
deal with just the subject
Yeah,
matter
exactly.
before us. That's all I want to deal with. This is a consideration for a request for Orion Waste Solutions to contract assignment change. You're assigning the contract to whom?
To a company called Coastal Waste and Recycling. They will become the largest owner of Orion Waste Solutions, which is our company. They're making considerable investment into it, and so because of the monetary investment, they will have more than 51% ownership in the company, but we'll still be here.
That is what's before us today. I have a motion. I believe the commissioner from the 8th has made a motion to approve this with a proper second. I don't remember who that came from.
I know, I didn't hear it. I need them
It
talking
was
to
a second.
mics.
I did hear the second.
I think it was Sean.
All right. That second came from the commissioner from the 7th.
From the
Mr. Mayor, I got a
From the
substitute
7th.
motion.
From the 7th. Everybody suspend. I'm going to get you one at a time. We can do this. We can do this civilly and with decorum. Again, I'm going to hear everybody. All right. We have a motion to approve this matter, and that's the contract assignment change. Okay. That's all this is. Okay. Hold on. That's all we're doing. Okay. And it's time sensitive pursuant to the contractual obligations. That's all we're dealing with right now. All right. Chair recognizes the commissioner from the 6th.
Mr. Mayor, last week, the reason this issue came before us with no recommendation pretty much is because we got a document last week that didn't tell us anything, and we back in the same place. We still don't have a document that says what we're being told, you know?
That's
and
not
so with that being said, Mr. Mayor, if it is time sensitive, and I don't doubt that, I'm gonna give the benefit of the doubt. I'm gonna take him at his word. There's the 28th next week that this could be called on a special call meeting if it's an urgent matter, and also give us some clarity around the sub having access, because when you're changing hands, you got another person that's gonna be the majority owner, that the sub makes sure they have their deeds in hands for their vehicles. Some understanding on it. I think that's important as well. And so I'd like to make a substitute motion that we push this particular 33 to the special call meeting next week for clarification.
All right. I've got a substitute. No. We're gonna deal with this, and here's how we're gonna deal with this. I want to draw everybody's attention to tab 33. Under tab 33 is a consent. Under tab 33 is a consent matter, and in this consent matter, it speaks to, in the third whereas clause, immediately prior to acquisition, inland will sell and transfer to Coastal Waste and Recycling, thereof referred to as Coastal. It's in your documents. It's in your notebooks. And again, that's the matter regarding number 33. I cannot imagine this just happened to show up today. I cannot. I just cannot. And so we've got a substitute motion to deny this and a second. We're going to vote on that first, and then we'll come back.
You see, it has inland on it. Don't have Orion on it.
All right. The substitute motion was from the commissioner from the 6th.
Did he deny? I thought it was to refer to the special call meeting, not deny.
Was that?
No, sent to the special call meeting to get some clarity around when the sub will be able to get their contracts and their deeds in hand for the vehicles that they've paid for.
Yeah, I'm not aware of a special call meeting.
Huh?
Our regular special call meeting.
You can put it on the special call meeting because if he says urgent, the special call meeting is designed to entertain emergency issues.
I understand all of that, but I'm telling you, there's not a special call meeting at this time.
Okay.
Yeah, it's our regular special.
It's regular. It's on the agenda.
Meeting
Okay,
on the
that's what you're
28th.
referring to.
Yes.
On the
That's what
28th.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Let's vote on this substitute, which is referred to as special call meeting. Voting. Lord have mercy.
I don't get it.
That motion fails with Ms. McKnight voting yes, Mr. Hassan, and Mr. Clark. Voting no, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Dennis Williams, Mr. Alvin Mason, Mr. Bobby Williams, Mr. Sean Franham, Mr. Garrett, and Mr. Clark.
All right, the matter that's before us now is a motion to approve item 33, and that is a request for contract assignment. Voting.
Did we just vote on that?
No, you did
What we
not.
just voted on that?
We voted on your substitute.
Oh, goodness.
Voting.
That motion carries 8-2 with Ms. McKnight and Mr. Hassan voting no.
All right, Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item number 34.
Okay, now.
Wait a minute. So your motion would be to rescind the action of the September 7th meeting?
Okay, my motion is to rescind the action of the last
Oh.
vote or whatever.
Okay, Mr.
Second.
Hassan. Okay.
Second.
All right, sir.
Voting.
The recommendation of the director. That motion carries 7-3 with Mr. Franham, Mr. Garrett, and Mr. Clark voting no.
Madam Clerk, we're going to go to item number 35.
Okay.
All right, let me have you push your button, Commissioner. We're going to go to item number 35, Madam Clerk.
Can we read, yeah.
Read item 35.
Yes, ma'am.
A motion to approve a request from Waste Management, A1 Sanitation, for a 2-year contract extension in accordance with the approval of Orion's 2-year contract extension.
All right, before I recognize the Commissioner from the 6th, I'm going to recognize the parliamentarian. Chair recognizes the parliamentarian.
If I understood the vote in the last motion, this motion would no longer be applicable because it is asking for an extension that you now have rescinded, so the extension does not exist.
Thank you.
We deleted without objection.
Delete without exception, Mr. Mayor.
So we can go home.
This meeting is adjourned.
Mr. Hassan, The meeting is adjourned. You know what that means? Do you know what that means? Mr. Brown. Frank. Yeah.